What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC 327, Prochazka versus Ulberg, giving our predictions and looking at the upcoming UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Malott. To do all of that with me, the man, the myth, the legend, the Ohio player, a man who, if you mess with, will make you watch Reyes versus Walker for every day for the rest of your life. Mr. Chase Parton, how the hell are you, brother?
I am phenomenal. It is Monday. We are ready to talk about fights. Obviously, some of them, as one you just alluded to, bangers. So we got a lot to talk about. Get into a lot here. I'm excited.
What a great life it would be to watch that every day for the rest of your life, right?
Yes.
Yes, no, absolutely. We got a ton to talk about. Of course, a jam packed, numbered event full of all of the weird and wacky that you always come to expect. Any other fight related things, because this has been a little bit of a light week for myself. We of course had two, not one but two MMA on film episodes come out. We had our Bloodsport review, which thank you for everybody who's been supporting that. That was a really fun one. And then also the opening day review of the new motion picture Beast, One Championships foray into the film world, also came out as well. So I watched a little bit of other stuff, but not too much, Chase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, one more thing before we move on from that topic there. If you have any recommendations, doors are open right now for MMA on film. We are still looking into films that we are going to review. The list is going to continue on and on and on. So just make sure to drop all your recommendations in the comments below, and make sure to like the stream as well as you're at it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I mean, if there is nothing too crazy to go over, we got a lot to talk about with this one. So, shall we jump in?
Actually, did we want to talk about one? Did we talk about one was pretty decent. We
Oh,
had bare knuckle
yeah.
MMA
I was gonna say a good point that reminded me.
and
Yes,
dirty
because I was.
boxing.
Yeah. Well, see, I did not watch Dirty Boxing. I actually haven't even heard anything about Dirty Boxing. I don't know if it was good or not. I remember the last Dirty Boxing that I did watch, thought was kind of a mixed bag. It was not the greatest event. But did watch Game Bread Bare Knuckle down there in the Dominican Republic, and that was a lot of fun. It was certainly a regional show maxing, I would say. I mean, it like it had some elements of it that were better than others, but the fights were, I thought, pretty good overall. And then, yeah, how about Sam A over there in One Championship, getting himself a crazy win? That was certainly the highlight of the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. When I'm talking about what did we miss with one to talk about? No, that's exactly what I mean. Sam A, the performance of a lifetime. I mean, I can't even say that because he's been performing like that for a lifetime, guys. And it's just ridiculous. This guy has over 350 plus bouts or wins at that. This dude's crazy. 378 is what it was, I think. That
Yeah.
guy's amazing.
Yeah, Sam A is an absolute legend of Muay Thai. If you are not aware of the Muay Thai space as much, get yourself hip to One Championship, of course, with the film, the major motion picture Beast. Now, maybe more people are going to be drawn into the promotion, and if you are, you will find out about the absolute legend who is Sam A.
You know what I find almost serendipitous? We just had a movie released on Friday, for One Championship. Of course, it's a, different promotion, but it is very Australian, New Zealand centric.
Mhm.
And then as we find out what happens for this card, of course, now there's huge representation for this market over there. They now have a champ we'll discuss later, and then now they have a movie that's made about them, so it is kind of a win-win for them this weekend. They did really good.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to him. This is how power moves are made, and of course, not to be too much of a downer, but I have been one of the numerous voices, it would seem, that are a little bit dissatisfied with the UFC at the moment. So always nice to see that paired with other options that are doing cool things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and now that I was thinking about the movie that we saw and just how big of a move this was for them, because how great of a movie is it? And then they obviously get on top of it, some big story revelation. But then I'm thinking about the ending of Beast, and it's like, how often does that really happen? We will definitely talk about this later. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Or you can go ahead and watch our full review of it where we talk about it in depth there. So enjoy Beast. Actually, a couple of people had commented that they were going to see the movie and would come back and give their thoughts in the videos themselves, in the comments of the videos. So shout out to all those people, and thank you very much for watching the review.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say is dirty boxing. I
Yeah.
did catch a little bit of this. I did not catch this person's fight, but I do want to go ahead and give mention to them. Zach Pauga was in dirty boxing.
Yes.
This dude he is that's a real fighter right there. That dude is here to make his money, dude. He will bounce around to whatever promotion it is. He challenged Robelis for the heavyweight fucking tournament, arguably beat him, and then he goes to dirty boxing and is getting some wins. This dude, he was in the UFC before this, correct? Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's been around for a while.
This dude, and from I saw just a mini tweet from him. He said he didn't start MMA until he was 30 or something like this. It's like a
Oh,
very late story.
yeah, I did not know that if that's the case, but even more power to him.
Shout out to my guy Zach Pauga. I appreciate him, and he really does drop some gems on Twitter. So everybody go give him a follow real quick.
Well, there you go. Some love for Zach Pauga. How about it? I like it.
And the last thing that I'll say about Dirty Boxing is because John Jones was there, Sean Shelby was there. Obviously, they were having a great time. Chad, what's his name? Gable Stevenson.
Gable Stevenson, yeah.
He was there as well. They were having a grandiose time. But there was there was a light heavyweight belt on the line in Dirty Boxing, and it was not the greatest, but I need to see this dude against like Waldo or something at this point because Big Tom, this guy's coming to get your belt from Dirty Boxing. He's
Oh
not
yeah.
great, but nope, nope. But he's at least an active champ. He's at least
Okay.
an active champ is all that I'm asking for. If he comes out here in his next fight and defends it, Tom, you got another thing coming because that's the real heavyweight champ right there, brother. That's
Oh
all I'm
man.
saying.
Well, we'll certainly be talking about potential active champs tonight, won't we? Um,
Yes.
all right. Well, yeah. With all of that said, any other last notes before we start jumping on into this thing?
Yeah, we can go ahead and give a shout out to Meat Rocket. Even though you were first, you were still a little late, brother, but I'll let it slide. I will let it slide.
Yeah, the whole crew seems to be a little late today, but that's all right. We can get this thing going all by ourselves. And to do that, let's start off by talking this thing down. This is, of course, UFC 327, Prochazka versus Ulberg. This took place at the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida. So, starting this thing off, Chase, going into this card, your initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts were that this card was pretty good. On paper, this is a pretty decent card. Until I saw people on Twitter talking about how this kind of compares to UFC 300. And I thought to myself, they are expecting a little too much here. They are expecting just a little too much. And I understand you look on the prelims and you see Kelvin Gastelum as the second fight. And you'll be like, oh my God, a Hall of Famer. He's the second bout of the night. But then you see him followed by Chris Padilla and Markel Maderos. It's like, guys, you can't fucking think this is UFC 300 level,
I
surely.
I mean, anybody who is thinking like that, I want to say that the people who are thinking that way or were thinking that way coming into this card were probably responding to the lack of quality in the Paramount era so far. Is really what I hate to. And again, I'm really like because I've heard the criticisms. I've heard what people in the chat have been saying. Oh, Thinker's being a little bit of a downer here. It's not that bad, guys. I want you guys to enjoy your fights. I want you to be enjoying the product or whatever. I also want to enjoy the product. Like I take no joy in being this Debbie Downer when it comes to the UFC. That is not my aim. I'm certainly not one of these people that goes out of my way to specifically be negative when it comes to the UFC. They're making it that way for me personally. So if you are enjoying the fights, then great. But I do think that there has been a noticeable overall quality dip. There are certainly elements that lend themselves to making the quality dip. And because of that, I think people are kind of grasping at straws a little bit in the card like this, which certainly I think was good on paper. I agree. I mean, I think that this was like, you line this up. There are a lot of great fights on it. I think it actually, delivered to an extent with some of them and a good amount of them. This was a fine card. But to think in anybody's mind that UFC 300 should be anywhere near a comparison to this, that is very ridiculous.
I definitely agree, but I would also say to the point about the entertainment aspect of Paramount right now. It's the fighters, guys. It's just kind of, there's in any sport, there's low points in any era, and that's just what's going to make somebody stand out even more. You have an Ilya Taporia, and he's just that guy right now, and anybody else, they just kind of fit right in with all the other ones. Yuri was a guy who stood out, and we'll definitely talk about the end of an era kind of deal, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's just crazy. Everybody is seeming to fit in, and they're all fitting into this archetype where they want to rush to the belt and they want to sit on it for as much popularity as they can, defend it for maybe once or twice in fucking 2 years, and then call it a quits on the career. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, again, it's just one of those parts. Again, it's like it's no one specific thing that is like the thing that is making all of this kind of quality dip. It's just an amalgamation. It's a bunch of different factors all coming together, in my estimation, at least, all coming together to drag the product down overall. And that's certainly one of them. I remember on your stream when we were watching Chase Parton's very fine show called Street Word. If you're not watching Chase's show, by all means, make sure that you are there for his streams of this. But I was watching your show while you were doing yours, and one of the people we were watching was talking about how we haven't had like legitimate title fights so far in the Paramount era. I mean, we've had like things that have been called that, and you can you can consider them that, but like as far as like the champions just straight up defending their belts and stuff, there it's been lacking. It's been light in that regard. And I've said, the White House card could have played a big role in that. Well, now we know what the White House card is. It's doing that for a couple of divisions, perhaps, but you can't blame everything on that. So, like, it's just a big kind of hodgepodge of things that are all coming together to sort of take the overall tide down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that will change over time.
Well, because you think back to, UFC 300, for example, if you want to talk about the White House and how they were kind of holding off talent for one specific event, there was a lot of people who would say, Leon Edwards didn't defend his belt much is because, there was potential that they wanted him to be on UFC 300. And then when he didn't end up being there, they obviously couldn't just throw him in the card after or the next card after. You have to wait until UFC London or something where it actually means something. And that happens to be, a whole trimester away, whatever you want to say. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've never like fully ascribed personally to like the idea that you have to have the title fight in the city of the fighter or anything like that. And we've seen plenty of times that that has not been the case. But really, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. I'm certainly understanding of those elements. It takes a lot to make these shows happen. This is why fights drop off, fights get added. We'll talk about one fight that dropped off of this card, very noticeably, of course. There's a lot that has to come together to go right for these shows. That being said, if you are the top of the heap, if you're the people who have won the competition like the UFC has, $7.7 billion and no direct competitors in their minds, then it is on you to live up to that expectation. So, it is what it is, I suppose, and hopefully we pray for the best.
And speaking just one more time, just to speak on like where I feel the talent is, and just we don't really have many people who, and this is just my personal opinion, we don't have people who are ready, dead set to just be better than everybody in their division, but not only want to be that, like they are that. I brought up Ilya, and obviously in any case you have to be a winner, not necessarily to be someone's favorite fighter or an entertaining fighter, but to be the best right now. You have to beat everybody in the division, and I need somebody who's willing to just show that like 3 4 times over. Give the rightful person the opportunity. This is why somebody like Pantoja and DDP, at the time, they were looking really good to me as people who to look up to, as one of the greater champions in the sport, because they were just willing to do it against whoever the UFC told them is next. And the UFC obviously is not always right, and they're always clouded with marketing and who was going to sell the most, but if you're the champ, you do what the boss says. And Pantoja did that shit, 4 or 5 times, whatever it is. DDP did that, a couple times. And then obviously we're where we're at. But I truly believe for a guy like that who wants to be the best fighter in the world at his division, DDP carries that kind of energy. When Hamzat's ready to move on, I truly believe DDP will go get that belt back. So that's
All
just
right.
me.
Hey, fair enough. And hopefully that can usher in the new era that will make all of these things that are sticking points for people like myself all disappear. How about that?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, before we actually get into the fights proper here, let's at least touch on the major fight that dropped off of this thing, which of course was Josh Van versus Tatsuro Taira. That fight has been moved to 328. Chase, I know that you are the number one Josh Van fan in the world. So your thoughts on that?
It sucks that we have to wait, but I can just be happy that the Josh Van Yuri parlay was gonna flop either way. You know, even if
True.
Josh Van would have got it done, I would have been so broke at the end of the night. So let me just be thankful that I can save it for the Josh Van Hamzat play, I guess. Let me just be happy for it.
I like it. All right, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I guess just for my own thoughts, it's unfortunate. It would have certainly been a nice addition to this card. Conflicting information as to why that fight was removed. Of course, Josh Van claiming an injury. He was at a previous fight night, walking around on the leg that apparently is supposed to have a hamstring injury. Now, granted, a hamstring injury is not necessarily one that's going to sideline you to the point of not being mobile. So, fair enough. It's a little bit hard to know the exact truth of that. People will sometimes say injury and then there are extenuating reasons thereafter. I don't want to speculate too much because I do not know the answer. All I know is that the fight gets removed and we see Josh Van in an event. So take that for what it is.
I'd be remiss not to bring it up, Thinker. I know you hate the tinfoil hat time, but we're going to go ahead and get into it. Did they move Josh Van from this card because this card was not making the money that it was, And Josh Van's going to go to another card where more people are going to see him than they were when they saw this one, I guess.
I don't know if that's the case, but that does bring up a great point. I don't even think I was going to mention this, but I saw the tweet that's been going around that this was the most poorly attended Miami event in recent history. So, there's a number of potential reasons for that. Perhaps I, living in Florida, know very well how much the tickets are to that to events in Miami. I think it makes sense for that reason. Paying $500 for nosebleed seats, I don't think the average person wants to do that or can do that affordably. So I mean, it makes very little sense to be charging that kind of money and expecting to have a sold out crowd for every one of your shows.
Not just the average person, the average fan. You guys are phasing out the fans. That's the
Yes.
real issue here. Is the people who really want to see it. I mean, guys, I'd rather pay $9 a month of subscription than $400 to sit with Jesus Christ and watch the fights. You know what I mean? Like it's
That-
crazy.
Literally me. I mean, I have family in South Florida. I could easily go down to Miami, stay over at a family's place, we'll watch the fights. I'm not going to do it. No fucking way am I going to do that.
Yeah,
Literally the comment that I had made on the post about this, I said, it's almost like you price out the fans and then wonder why the fans don't show up.
true. Yep. It's
So
crazy.
yeah, so I don't know if any of that has anything to do with Josh Van, but that, of course, was dropped off of this card, and we will see that fight on the next numbered event. That being said, let's start getting into these actual fights that did take place here, Chase. Starting off with the first fight of the evening, of course, Charles Radke versus Francisco Prado. What'd you think of this one?
I think this one was good. I think this was a good start to the night. I mean, obviously, once again, I want to give praise to whoever picks the first fight of the night. Whoever is in charge of it, good job. I think a lot of people, and maybe even myself, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I hopefully made it clear that Prado is a pretty tough customer. I mean, this guy is pretty tough. He's a tough guy, but I mean, again, we go back to the skill sets and what you have to be able to compete in the sport. He's young and he's just not necessarily picking up the tools that he would need to be a very competitive person. When it comes to Charles Radke, I mean, he's a very good competitor. He's a very good test, but he's a couple rungs down when it comes to top level talent. And if Prado's best opportunity in a fight is to just kind of dog it out and hope for the best. I mean, he's just not going to win fights. I mean, he had a good first round and then he gets split open, I believe, from the bottom. And then it left a big old hole in his head. Another gunshot wound. I love that it's
Yeah.
not just these cuts anymore, guys. It's these blunt holes in people's foreheads that are just making them leak. So this was a really fun fight, but it was just Charles Radke whooping his ass. That's really all it came down to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad that you said that for yourself there about Prado, because I know that on the previous episode, I believe I made it pretty clear that I thought Francisco Prado was not UFC caliber.
Mhm.
What I will say is that I think this fight showed me a lot more toughness out of Prado than I was expecting, which was a welcomed thing in this fight. Charles Radke is a tough dude. I didn't realize. I mean, I think that we had maybe seen in the last fight Radke lean on his wrestling a little bit more, and that was when I was kind of like, oh, I guess Radke is more of a wrestler than I had thought he was. Certainly showed that here in this fight as well. And that I think was in response to the toughness from Prado. Prado, like you said, first round came out aggressive, a lot of pressure to start. And I thought he looked better in this fight than I had seen him look in the UFC. So that was certainly good. However, like you said as well, just a guy who it does not seem that he has all of the tools in the arsenal to hang at the highest level. I mean, this is now 4 losses in a row, I believe, for him in the UFC. I don't think he actually has any wins in the UFC at all. So, it's unfortunate, especially with a fight like this and a performance like this, because you do see this reminds me a lot of Robert Rushala that we talked about a couple weeks ago. Like, a guy who he's obviously tough. He's obviously going out there and trying. It's not like he's out there, just being a punching bag. We'll talk about somebody else who is that a little bit later on in the card. But he's obviously got a base, but the base needs to be built upon. And if you're not doing it by 4 fights in, it's hard to say that you should be here.
It's not just the amount of fights. 4 fights. That's a decent amount. It's actually more than 4 fights. It's actually 6 fights in the UFC. He's 1-5. He beat
Oh,
Ottoman
jeez.
Aziatar, whatever that
Oh,
guy's name is.
yes, we did talk about that. My apologies. Okay, so 1-5 in the UFC.
But the point is after 6 fights in the UFC, at the age that he is, I mean, he is a guy who got to come into the UFC at a very young age, and he never. If this is what the product is now, I can't imagine the 4 fights that I didn't see of him. I mean, he just really never. He never got his game evolved. He never leveled up his level. Whatever you want to say. I mean, he never really got it. He's just out there because he's a tough guy. He can get punched in the face, and we've seen him bleed now. But that normally is only a good thing. It's like, if he's been wiping the competition and he gets cut open and then he fights through and wins, it's good. But just getting beat up and bloodied, I mean, dude, like you just made me feel bad for you at 1-5 in the UFC. Like that's just crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on the other side of the equation, as far as Charles Radke goes, making improvements, I would say working with Bilal certainly showing for Radke. I mean, the wrestling looked really nice in this fight. Didn't give Prado an inch or an exit for a lot of these exchanges on the ground. I thought Radke did a nice job navigating all of the ground positions and doing the damn thing. I mean, some of the takedowns were easier than others. It was that second round that he ended up getting the elbow from the ground that opened up Prado. It was just all off of the effectiveness of what he was doing, because that was the one time that Prado ended up being able to reverse him, and he still ended up getting damage off. So Radke doing some nice things at this point. I still slightly skeptical of him, because it's like, Prado, as we are kind of alluding to, is, feels like slightly meatballish, when it comes to someone of the caliber of the UFC. So Radke probably should make these a little bit more definitive, perhaps. But either way, I thought that this was a really nice showing for him. And then, of course, I mean, Prado himself sadly sealed his own fate in the 3rd round when he hit the double eye poke, and Chad Mark Goddard actually took the point. I was like, man, finally somebody actually living up to the what Herb Dean said that they were going to do. Be more strict about these things, because if you saw the replay, that index finger was directly in the eye socket, and then the swipe across the eye to the other eye. That's legit. Like, I mean, take the point for that. I don't know. I think I'm at that point now where it's like I'm of that mindset. Like, just fucking do it already.
No, yeah, listen, this night we had a lot of different calls right off the bat. We had some warnings. At least we were told there were warnings. Specifically for this one, I'm pretty sure the commentary goes, well, he told him between the rounds, guys. And it's like, all right, I'm on commercial break, brother. So I don't know. But yeah, he took the point, and that's not the first iteration of that for this night. So it was nice, but he was losing. He's going to lose 30-27 either way. 30-26, good call. Shout out Charles Radke, man.
Yeah,
And
well, and I also did want to mention that the crowd at this one was chanting "Take the point," and I was like, that should tell you that the people want better. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like the fans, again, the fans that were able to afford it. Like, we're watching this every week. I'm yelling about it literally every week. I had a bum voice for this event, and even I was still screaming at the top of my lungs for some of these things. So yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
You cannot argue that point because you're in America. You have an American who gets poked by the Argentinian. The crowd's yelling, "Take a point." They're going to do that after every first offense,
Nah,
probably.
I don't think so, though, man. I mean, like,
But you can't go off the
maybe.
crowd, though. But
Well,
like that's
fair
not
enough,
the
fair enough.
official, at least.
Yeah, I will definitely give you that. Certainly, the official should not have been listening to that. I guess
Yes.
maybe like I will grant you that. Maybe that is me kind of applying my own thoughts onto the crowd. But I would say that if I was, I'll just at least put it in my own perspective. If I was in the crowd and I had seen a foul like that, I would be chanting "take the point" because I want better officiating personally. If
Yeah,
I can't necessarily speculate on what the actual reasoning was behind the chant.
yeah, 100%. But yeah,
Um,
no, this fight was it was a good starter. I think the best part that I have to bring up though, is there anything else you have to say about the fight itself? Because clearly we have a whole different discussion for the post-fight speech here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, most definitely. No, the only other thing that I had as the major note was Prado getting silly and jumping Gilly, which actually looked pretty bad for Radke for a minute
Mhm.
there. And I said, Charles Radke able to slip the Gilly, even though it looked pretty decently sunk in. That was another nice notch in his belt on this one.
I actually I was thinking about that if that was this fight that I remember it was like that. But yes, no, Charles Radke shout out getting out the deep sub. Prado, I mean, Hail Mary, that's all it ended up being, and it didn't end up
Sure.
happening. One,
Yes.
would have been nice, but definitely did not. But Charles Radke, of course, this is what I'm talking about. Let your fighting do the talking, and then you get the opportunity to do the talking. We'll talk about this a little later, not too much, but
Oh yeah.
Charles Radke gets his opportunity to get on the mic. And you could tell with that devilish grin that he had on his face, he was ready to say something crazy, and he knew what we wanted to hear. He dropped the F bomb for us, and everybody goes crazy. It's great. This was a great post fight speech. I really appreciate him a lot.
Yeah, well, what I would say, obviously, F slur aside, which I do not appreciate, but it is his brand. I said on brand for Charles Radke. What I appreciated in the post fight speech was that I actually liked the other stuff that he had said, where he had said, look, I was in this very arena, sitting up in the top rafters, waiting to get into the UFC. Now I'm here. I'm talking to Joe Rogan. He's talking to me. I like that all resonated. I thought that was a nice message. But then this is the funnier part to me. He pulls out the "tell my aunt Tracy that you love her right now" to Joe Rogan. Rogan turns to the camera, says it, and then Radke jumps up and down and giggles like a schoolgirl at this. I thought that was rather funny.
That was definitely an interesting interaction. I do appreciate the little inspirational quote there. Say it one more time that he said, I was wanting to talk to Joe Rogan, but now Joe Rogan's talking to me.
Yeah, you said it. Yeah, that's what he. Yeah, and I thought that was really cool.
It was, and then yes, obviously, Aunt Vicky or whatever it was, shout out her.
"Tell my aunt Tracy that you love her. I love you, Aunt Tracy." Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta love it. Yeah, no, I mean, and these are the post-fight speeches that we want to talk about?
Yeah. No, like Radke leaning into the F slur thing. Again, on brand for him. He's a character to begin with. Charles Radke is actually the guy he portrays himself to be. So I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like he is slightly questionable with some of his, things that he may believe. We don't know or don't, we kind of got to leave that to the behind the scenes perhaps. But but he's not one of these guys that, in my estimation, is going out there and putting on a false front. Be yourself. That's perfectly fine. You can even play up the actual person that you are. There's a level to it that if you get past, that's when it becomes a bit of a problem. I thought Radke, even with the questionable language, I think he does it right.
Yeah, 100%. This was great.
Yeah, so shout out to both of these guys for making this opening fight good. Francisco Prado, I would suspect, is probably going to be on the chopping block at some point here. And I know that I say that often about guys, but come on. I mean, 1-5 in the organization. Like, it's kind of amazing that he's stuck around this long. If they do keep him around for a little bit longer, then he really, really needs a win. And I hope he gets it because this was a good, tough performance from him.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm not thinking he's going to be around anymore.
Yeah, I would suspect not, but we shall see. We shall see. Shout out to Charles Radke. Nice win.
Yes.
All right. Well, next up down the line here, Kelvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. Was it not one thinker St. James last week, Chase Parton, who said no concern about the Luque sub, no concern about the Luque sub? But both of us did not, neither of us were concerned about the Luque sub. So, I really can't be too mad at anybody except for myself for saying it and then it somehow happening.
The thing about it is because the Luque sub that we got, it was predicated on the fight getting, the sub, you have to get the mat, we have to get something to the mat. Did we ever think that Vicente Luque was going to drop Kelvin Gastelum with a fucking uppercut,
brother? That Kelvin makes weight just to get clubbed and subbed was the first note. And then, yes, fucking Vicente Luque dropping Kelvin Gastelum in the big 2-6. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, so this fight went downhill very, very quickly. As you can tell, we didn't even get a minute into this fight. Kelvin Gastelum walks right into a naked uppercut and just eats it, falls to the mat, and then lets Vicente get his favorite fucking choke off. So you can't make it up, brother.
Well, and the craziest part to me, and look, I'm not like obviously we have feelings about Kelvin Gastelum. I'm really not even trying to like dog him for this. But the craziest thing to me was that he had the setup for it, but it was on the side. Like it wasn't even the full flush Darce. It was like he was kind of like trying to roll into it. He just had enough force on the thing that it made him tap. So I mean, shout out to Vicente Luque, dude. I mean, like again, this is one of those dudes that is consistently counted out. And I understand why he does absorb damage. He does drop. I mean, there are things that would lead you to believe that he would be losing these fights, but if he gets his hands around your neck, dude, I mean, like he is legitimately still a threat.
I this one I wanna listen, all props to Vicente Luque. I personally, I don't have much to say about it. I've never really been the highest on him, and probably never gave him the praise that he should have, had. I wasn't here for the pre-medical condition things that he had going on. So he hasn't been a fan favorite of mine, but I want to give him props. Sure, right off the bat, good, fair, clean win. Did exactly what he needed to do. Somehow dropped Kelvin Gastelum and then subbed him, which is crazy. But Kelvin Gastelum, I'm sorry, but this is unacceptable. Bro, I know Joe Pyfer dropped you like 4 times in the fight and you didn't get finished by him, but Vicente Luque dropping you, man, is just crazy. And maybe I'm missing some extensive history of, Vicente being some powerful puncher where he's just dropped all the mega chins out here. But Kelvin Gastelum, this was just ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I that was really the biggest note to take away from all of this. Again, Kelvin making weight. You talk about being unacceptable. Kelvin Gastelum is the human definition of unacceptable when it comes to mixed martial arts. I mean, this is a man who consistently misses weight. Somehow, I can only imagine it's because of the Izzy fight that he has any level of Dana White privilege. But for whatever reason it is, a dude who has a show, an eating show, a food show called Missing Weight. He is so blatant about his missing weight that he named his own food program that, and somehow still gets booked in these fights. Still is given fight after fight, and now having the run that he is on. Yes, unacceptable is exactly the word that I think is properly applied to Kelvin Gastelum. And getting dropped by Vicente, you're certainly not off base. Vicente is not a super crazy power puncher. I mean, like he's a dude who has a really great Darce. That's what he is. I mean, like so. Yeah, the biggest takeaway from all of this, I said, dropped by Piper. Now Luque, Kelvin's chin finally going, and I don't know if that's the answer is completely yes, but something like this would lend one to believe that.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Hydra, of course. Thank you for
Yes.
stopping by. But this comment here, Kelvin has always got knocked down. He would just recover. Can't recover diving into your opponent's signature choke. And I'm sitting here thinking, if he just would have fell into his guard, like all you had to do was just not fall on your knees, brother. I don't know. It's just crazy. But
Well,
obviously, extenuating circumstances. I'm joking, of course, but just crazy.
sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That actually does lead me to a funny note that I did have here from the rewatch. Kelvin had Luque in a front headlock at one point before the shot landed, and DC said, "If you're Gastelum, this is okay because you can bear down on him with your weight." And I said, "Bro is praising Kelvin for weaponizing his fatness."
God damn it. Yes, exactly. I know. He actually, if you want to just go back, and this is to talk about somebody that we'll talk about later in the card, this is something that I'm pretty sure DC has done it before, or maybe Curtis Blades actually himself said it. When he beat Jelton Almeida, he basically said, "I just put my belly on his back and he couldn't move." And I'm like, you're weaponizing a big old beer belly in this sport right now. Jesus Christ.
By any means necessary, I I guess I can't fault it, but yeah, I mean, look, not too much else to say about this fight overall. I guess the only other real minor note was that I thought before the shot landed, Kelvin was doing decent work. I mean, he was up in Vicente's face. Speed was looking pretty good. He got the takedown at first. I said it was a fine start to this thing. He just got clipped, and I think that maybe that also leads one to believe that Kelvin himself maybe not recognizing that his chin is starting to go a little bit. I mean, if you're a guy who can consistently count on your physiology, your bodily anatomy to tank damage, and that's not working for you anymore, then maybe it's time to self-assess a little bit further.
Yeah, unfortunately, if the case is that Kelvin Gastelum doesn't have this, ability to absorb shots anymore, I really think we're going to see just how maybe one-dimensional his game kind of is,
It the
unfortunately.
That's gonna be the big question too, is like, what's the booking gonna be like for him at this point? Because it's like, again, you could say, "Oh, well, he misses weight all the time and he's getting a little bit of privilege, but that's because he wins." But it's like, that ain't the case anymore, so what does this equal out to going forward? That's gonna be a big question mark until we know, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm seeing TKOs coming because if he's a striker and his chin is just washed and he's still going to have the confidence to run in here and strike with these people, he's just going to fall down. If he has no ability to get into some sort of defensive position on the ground at this point, rather than just fall there and just let the person sub him, kind of deal, it's not looking good. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Time will tell what ends up happening in that regard. But again, I say shout out to Vicente Luque, a guy who is consistently counted out and somehow pulls off these victories. Occasionally, not always, of course, but he's another one that I would kind of like at this stage of the career. It's not exactly one to one, but I would class him somewhat similar to Anil Magny in the sense that, you can count him out as much as you want. He's still going to find some victories sometimes. So don't think that you're just getting an instant dub every time that you see him and you're betting against him.
Yeah, 100%. This is
Yeah.
just crazy.
What a world, right?
Hydra, he was on tough and is a Mexican double Dana privilege. I second that right there, but I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Hall because karate combat is probably a good spot for him.
That I don't dislike that. And of course, big shout out to Jeremy and to Hydra.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, no, good deal. All right, let's move on to the next fight here because this is one that has a lot of conversation around it, and one that I don't think that I have screamed quite as loud on this subject as I did with this fight. This made me furious what we're going to be talking about with this one.
You said this has a lot of conversation around it. No, it doesn't.
It
Nobody cares.
shouldn't.
No, well, no, it shouldn't, but it should. It shouldn't because obviously we'll talk about it, but it should because of what actually is reality of what we're about to talk about. This should be an uproar. Twitter should be talking about how the
Oh
UFC is
yeah,
completely fucked up. But
no, I
the
agree
fact
with you
that
on
we're
that.
going to be probably one of and a few other, groups that are going to be talking about this specific issue, that needs to be noted that this is going to be swept under the rug one more time for you guys. So you guys got to be paying attention that we're going to talk about it and it's going to just fall into the void. So if you don't remember, just here's your moment to just put the replay or record button right there.
You are so correct on that. And, I had retweeted a while back and it just sticks out in my mind. I'll have to go back and find out who said it initially. But the dude who said, you know, we see blatant fuckery every week, and then the next fight starts and it just gets swept under the rug, exactly as you said. Well, that is what this show is for. We are the rememberers, we are the noticers of these things, we are the keepers of this information. If no one else is going to, that is what we are here for. And this one right here is about as blatantly in the realm of fuckery as any fight could ever be as far as what happened with this. So let's start talking about it and we'll get to all the details here.
Well, so
Of course,
first
this is Chris Padilla versus Markel Medeiros. That's the fight. Sorry, Jake.
yes, no, you're fine. I want to first just say that the fight itself, nothing too glamorous. I mean, this was not the craziest encounter between two people. You had a guy walking forward versus a guy who was walking backwards. It wasn't necessarily the greatest performance from either of them. But I will say, I was ragging on Chris Padilla before, that he had not been impressive to me. He's normally doing nothing until he is. I thought this performance was a lot more active than I feel he has been. And that's just a personal preference. Maybe I'm completely off there. But I think for me, I think Chris Padilla was doing a lot more tracking down. He actually wasn't cutting off the cage necessarily great because Medeiros just kept slipping away from him so many times. The entire fight was Medeiros just getting out of the reach of this guy. But go ahead. What would you like
No,
to say on
well,
that?
no, I was going to say, I mean, like, I thought that this was actually a really good scrap. I thought this was a nice Muay Thai affair, basically, is really what it came down to. Padilla showing that Muay Thai is, can be well applied. I think that Padilla's Muay Thai is really nicely applied to MMA, made this fight really fun to watch. And on the other side, Medeiros, another one, just like earlier on the card, I had said that Francisco Prado was a dude who I'd been kind of counting out. Medeiros was in that same camp. I referenced the fight with Austin Hubbard saying, I didn't see anything in Medeiros that really stood out as a dude to keep an eye on. to his credit, he made this a scrap. I mean, like, he was, you're certainly correct. He was definitely evading a good amount of times, but when he would land the shots, he was actually landing somewhat decently. Another instance where you had a big old gash taken out of the forehead with a nice lead elbow. There were good elements to this fight. I enjoyed this fight. I thought that everything was going according to plan with this fight. I mean, like like everything was fine with all of that element of it. In fact, I would have said that this was one of the better fights of the evening, and I still kind of say that about the fight itself. But then with what else happened, it just puts it all into a different perspective, of course.
Yeah, no. So Marco Maderos, I was pretty confident that he would come in and prove a lot of people wrong because you were, again, like you said, not confident that this guy was it at 11-0. That's a decent record for somebody who's not impressed somebody. I would just like to say that I think this fight he showed. He's a decently tough guy. Chris Padilla is not an easy guy to get through, and obviously he's finished a lot of different people. So Madero's being able to make it to the bell, impressive in itself, but he's a decision kind of guy. That's what he's really, made to do at this point. So he's gonna keep skating by a lot of people who are early finishers because he should just be able to weather the storm and just go on about his business and have a very point style. And then we had a point deduction in this fight. Is that correct?
That yes, that's what I was going to get to next. Of course, I mean, really, the actual nuts and bolts of this fight, there's not like too much to specifically talk about, aside from the lead elbow that we talked about there. A lot of Muay Thai back and forth was most of what this was. But yes, there was a point deduction. So there was an eye poke in the second round. That was a warning. Then, and this is why the point deduction is even kind of crazy with all of this. The Medeiros hits a second eye poke in the third round, I believe, but this is also after a double fence grab. So Padilla is on Medeiros' back in the third. He complains of an eye poke in that moment. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, Markel, I guess, punched behind his head and maybe poked him, but Peterson saw it and said, nope, wasn't an eye poke. So Padilla is like, okay, no problem. I'll keep going. Then Medeiros hits one cage grab very blatantly, and Keith swats his hand at it. And I'm like, bro, that's not a swat your hand time. He was getting up with the grab. That is a change of position. That is a point deduction right there, is what that should have been. And again, shout out to that referee from Gamebred. I didn't mention this, but the referee in Gamebred Bare Knuckle, this dude was just taking points left and right for cage grabs. He wasn't even stopping action. He saw a cage grab, he would just put one finger up in the air and it would just keep on going. He's like, oh, cage grab, boom, one, take a point. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if we need to go that far, but still, the thing is that like there's a difference. There's a difference between somebody who has their fingers in the cage and it's just kind of hanging there, and you slap their hand out for that. If they are actively using the cage to change positions, which is what Medeiros was doing, that's point deduction. But regardless, Keith sees it. He swats it away. Then there's another cage grab, which Peterson also is looking right at and does nothing about. He doesn't do anything about either cage grab. So we've got one eye poke and two cage grabs at that point. Then finally a second eye poke happens. Now 4 fouls. And finally Keith ends up taking the point for that second eye poke.
Yeah, so that is pretty crazy because when you end up seeing what we have at the scorecards, with the first scorecard that we get, they read out that Chris Padilla has won by split decision, and this is pretty crazy because that's how that is. That's the fight right there. The judge called it. I heard it. I saw it on the TV. That's exactly what the case may be. Now, I didn't necessarily think that was the right call before the point deduction. Of course, I was thinking Medeiros might be able to win this fight, but very unlikely, I would say. So when we get to the judge's call, I wasn't mad at the split decision. Boom, that sounds about right. But then we get down maybe like an hour down into the show, and they come back on and they say that there's been a change. There's not just a change, but there's been an error, and we have to fix this right now. It is now a draw between Chris Padilla and Markel Medeiros. Wherever they got messed up, I don't know. But if I'm not mistaken, let me break this down. So does that mean that two of the judges picked Medeiros, but they just forgot to take the point off, and that would bring it down to a draw?
This is the $1 million question, isn't it, Chase? What the fuck does it mean when they
Mm,
say scoring error or judging error? Is it that somebody just fat fingered the wrong number. Somebody wrote the wrong number down. They thought they were scoring one thing one way. Did Bruce read it wrong again? We had that on the other card recently, if you recall. Bruce apparently jumbling some stuff, or at least taking the fall. So what the hell is it? We don't get any actual clarification about anything. Now, also taking one step back here, you read out those original scores, 29-27, 29-27, and 28-28. I, in the moment, thought that was bullshit because I said, and going back on the rewatch, I stick by my initial assessment. I said I thought that Padilla won all 3 rounds on the first watch. I said that maybe round 2 would have been the round that you could have given to Medeiros, and I would have been completely fine. 29-27, that would have been a perfect score. Across the board, all good there. But then I see this, and I'm like, already there's fuckery afoot with that, with just what the judges had initially thought. Then a full fight, an entire fight, the next fight that we're going to talk about goes out and concludes, and they come back with this absolute nonsense. Go back on the VOD and hear my reaction to it. Like I said, I was already coming off of a bum voice because I've been a little bit sick lately, and even with that, I screamed right through it. I was screaming bloody murder. I'm surprised that the neighbors didn't wake up. Like, this was an absolute ridiculous, atrocious travesty. And like what I said before, exactly. What does it mean? You can you just all of a sudden decide that the judges got it wrong, and now you just come back and make a change at any time? How about maybe during main card, 5 fights from now? Oh, by the way, 5 fights ago, there was a wonky decision. We just decided to change that.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
this okay? Is this okay? Are we accepting of this?
No, we shouldn't be, but like we talked about, I mean, it's just going to get swept under the rug, and it's not really going to mean anything later on. But it's really ridiculous. The thing that the problem is like, when you think about this and you think about how much money goes into the sports gambling aspect of this, did Vegas make a call? Did they say, "Hey, we are not paying these motherfuckers out. Give them a draw, or else we burn the place down"?
And
I don't know.
like I said, and I now seems to be yet another note that I have to say over and over again. Less than a year ago, I would be hearing something like that and saying, Chase, you are a fool for even saying anything like that. You're so crazy to think that something like that could even be a possibility in this sport. Such a madness coming out of your mouth. And now it is completely different. Everything has been turned on its ear. We now know for fact that there are fights that have been fixed. We know that for a fact that there are people who can manipulate the styles and different elements of things. There are so many different ways to manipulate these things. So I don't know. Do I think that Vegas, somebody literally picked up a phone and said, "Hey, make this change"? I would doubt that, but now I can't rule anything out. So it's like we see things like this. And again, Hydra also bringing up the great point here. There was a point deduction in this fight. So you really are stretching the limits of believability to think that any of this could have been getting to the point of a majority draw. This is it's unfathomable to me, really.
You know what's actually insane to think about is that, me personally, you said Medeiros might have won round 2 upon rewatch. Okay, fair. I'll be with you on that one. Me personally, I think just being able to split him open, the damage is going to win round 1 to the judges. That's what they're supposed to judge based number 1, solely. So I thought round 1, Medeiros, you would score. If you want to argue round 2 for him as well, that's good. But then if you want to go, the point deduction, that would bring you down to a draw for, the draw. And I get that. But I also think in the moment when I was watching this, and this is the problem, right? Because you were talking about at whatever the other promotion is, with the game bread, with the ref, he's just taking points left and right. When this point got deducted, I don't know if I was just looking somewhere else for 3 to 5 seconds, but when I came back, I was like, did he take a point? Because normally we go to the middle of the cage, we do one, but we didn't get any of that.
Right.
So this would also make me believe, like, yeah, they didn't take the point in the initial judging because they didn't do it like the ceremonial way, like, sheesh, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind of
No,
insane to think about.
it's another great point, and actually something that I believe, I don't know if it was on in that specific incident, or actually it might have been on the Game Bread card when we were watching it, where I was talking about that exact point right there where I was like, this is why I talk about standardization and wanting there to be across the board standards in the sport, because I brought that point up when the guy was taking I believe that's when it was, when the ref in Gamebred was taking those points. I was saying, he's not stopping action. He's not taking the fighter to the center. He's not signaling to all of the, to all of the corners of the cage that a point is being deducted. And then everybody was like, oh, well, some refs do it and some don't. And I'm like, this is exactly why we need standards. It should be an across the board kind of thing. But yeah, there's so much uncertainty about all of this. And really, I mean, it all equals up to me at the end of the day. I've been saying justice for Taco Pad, like everywhere on social media. I mean, this has been my mantra right now.
You know what I hate to say, and I'm not gonna argue for the people who stick their fingers in other people's eyes, but this is going to be a common occurrence if we take points right off the bat for eye pokes. We're just gonna see draws and we're gonna see mistakes, and they're gonna come back later and be like, "Oh, we forgot to take the point." And he did the eye poke. But what I find is interesting is maybe if you do just start, just taking points, just, cage grab point, whatever point, take them all. We got 10 point system. You can commit 9 of them and you can still beat your opponent if he commits 8, whatever the case may be.
Well, and the idea is that if you start taking the points, that people will not commit the fouls anymore. So, that's the idea at least. And look, I mean, Hydra has said it many times, not here, but just in general. And I think it's a really great point in this instance, is that this is the only major sport where intention matters when it comes to fouls. And I'm a hockey fan, in hockey, you hook the guy's skate. Didn't matter if you meant to or not. You get that's go to the penalty box. You're getting your time for that. So really, I mean, yes, there are going to be unfortunate errors where it's like, yeah, he did not mean to poke him in the eye. He did not mean to grab the cage, whatever. But like, that's the risk that you run if you are in the game in general. And sometimes it's just going to be part of the situation, unless we get people actually actively trying to not do those things. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's really wherever you personally lie on that issue. That's up to you. But what really in this instance is, to me, is the just the fact that we could have an entire fight elapse, and then all of a sudden they come back and just tell us that the score has now been changed and that and overturned, no less.
I think one, it is crazy, but if they would have, hey, they didn't take the point. You guys can clearly see on the scorecard it doesn't have the -1. Like, this was the original shit they had. This was the adjusted when we took the point. If they would have done a whole song and dance about it, good. But I also think the UFC is in a position where they don't want to admit that they make mistakes, kind of deal. So it's like, here's the real scorecard. All right, bye. And that's it, kind of deal.
And well, again, a situation where the UFC is not involved. I guess the commission, you could say, is the one saying that. But like,
Well,
either
but
way,
no,
you're
but they're broadcasting it though. Like, they would choose to show us the scorecards. It's not the commission at that point. It's like, if they want to show us that there's a change in the scorecard, it's just because the UFC is keeping us in the loop on the commissions, Like,
sure.
that's going to go in the scorebook however they want. When they realize they make the mistake, they would put the graphic on the screen. So yeah, that should be Chael Sonnen's opportunity to come on there and be like, yeah, these fucking idiots over here didn't take the point, and then they show the graphic of the new scorecard. That's all that I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that tracks. Whatever the reason might be, I mean, this is just exactly going back to the same point I make over and over again about there needing to be more stringent oversight of the sport, a better standardization, a better group of better trained individuals in these positions, and just more people in general. Again, more people and better training. Those are the two biggest notes that I have, and then oversight from the top down that actually has a level of standardization that makes it so that these kinds of incidents are lessened at the very least. It's an unpredictable sport. There are always going to be anomalies and things that are outside of the scope of the unified rules or whatever. I acknowledge that, but if you can minimize those, it would go a long way, especially like you always say, Chase. This is not just about the integrity of the sport. For people like myself who care very much about that, certainly it is. But we're also talking about literal millions of dollars, millions of dollars. I mean, CTE was betting on this fight, and he had said, I don't know if I'm going to get paid out now. Are they going to take back the win? Does that change? I'm like, I think that all is final after the announcement is made, but who knows? Again, if Vegas isn't on the fix, do they? Is it book by book? There are millions of dollars at stake every single one of these fights. So the impetus is to make it right for the people who are paying for this product and by extension betting on these fights.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty crazy this one. I mean, we thought the one the other week was nuts when Tybura stood there and then they brought, Fortune back, but this one, yikes. They've already said the Padilla is already, looking and him and his team are looking to overturn it, or whatever you would say, but
Yes,
does
yes,
that even I don't even know how that's going to work. I mean, the case is they screwed up but and they're fixing the screw up. It's
right.
not like they had the right thing and then they screwed it up and they changed it. It's like, no, they forgot to take the point is what it looks like. And if you're going to be the guy who wants listen, you talked about the eye poke, you got poked in the eye and you had to break in the fight, the point was taken on your behalf, you got the draw. I mean, that's just the case of that's just reality, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but if he wouldn't have got the point taken, if we would have just moved on, Padilla wouldn't have. I mean, he would have got the split decision call is what it looks like originally. I don't fucking know, so that's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, you're absolutely right. It is very, very rare that these kinds of things are ever overturned to begin with anyway. So it's a long shot that he would have any success with that. We'll see what happens. Of course, we'll keep you posted if we find out what the actual outcome of that is. But in this moment, I really did feel for Chris Padilla. I thought that this was a fine performance by him. I thought that this was a really good fight, especially for this early in the card. This was one that stood out to me. I was like, depending on how the rest of this thing goes, this could be a potential standout on this card. I still think that it is to an extent, and for him to have this victory taken away from him for that reason, I feel for the guy. That's all I really can say.
I wish that you and I know again this is Chris Padilla and Markel Maderos we're talking about. These aren't your primetime guys, but the UFC and Dana. I wish Hunter, Sean Shelby would do more. The McMaynard, of course, they would do more of this. When you Dana knows when shit is fucked up. With Volkov and Gone, he's like, all right, we'll work with you. We're gonna figure it out for you. And obviously he fucking didn't, but he at
Yeah,
least
right.
he at least for the camera played it up that that we are invested in that. Like, oh my god, okay, they fucked up, but the boss man knows. Mr. Chatri, he knows a good fight. He doesn't screw over his guys unless he's already given out four of the bonuses already. But the point is if Dana came on after this and he like got on there, he's like, yeah, the commission's fucked up. I don't know, but Padilla, Maderos, we'll figure it out. If he would have just done something like that, I think it would have went a long way for the promotion. Because as a casual viewer, that's one thing about the Contender Series that I really enjoy. Like he personalizes with them. He's like, you gave it your all. It's very subjective, and every situation is different. And then if you get Dana to have that little heartfelt moment with them, like. It means something, I would say, but we don't get that for something like this, unfortunately, because again, it's Chris Padilla and Markel Maderos.
Yeah, yeah, performative or not, at least it is something to acknowledge that there was a mistake made, and I'll at least go with that part of it for sure. Yeah, you're right. It's unfortunate all around, and again, I stress if you can just go back and I said in the moment on the watch along, I said this is revisionist history in real time right now. So if that's just a possibility, then 2 cards ago when that guy won, he didn't win anymore. Okay. Yeah, just put it in the record books. He's no longer the winner.
So for the record book, just so we have it, obviously as we go on, our sheet of our predictions is going to get more elaborate and we're going to get more in depth. But so for Fortune and Tybura, I have Tyrell Fortune with an asterisk. I know we hate asterisks around here, but for this fight specifically, I have Chris Padilla as the winner, reversed for draw with an asterisk. So I'm
Yeah,
going to make sure that we do not forget that this was reversed for a draw. So
I appreciate that, absolutely, and yeah, no, I mean, look, final decision stands. Until they actually overturn it, then whatever, we got to go with it. So draw is right. No points across the board is completely acceptable. But it's just yeah, I mean, it's just a shitty situation and one that we have now talked all the way through. So draw your own conclusion. Actually, the last thing I did want to mention though, because Bleeding Edge with the breaking news here, he says I saw people online saying they cashed out the bet immediately after the bout, then their winnings were reversed and their account for that book went negative. So there you go. What was I saying about millions of dollars being on the line and being book by book as to how they're going to handle that kind of thing? Fucking deal with it. Shut up and
yeah,
watch the fights.
yeah, this is the unfortunate gamble when you sports gamble.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Always a an additional gamble when it comes to betting on the UFC, it would seem. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right. Well, let's
Shout
move
out
on.
Bleeding Edge, by the
Oh,
way. Bleeding
dude.
Edge, shout out for stopping by, man.
Absolutely. Shout out Bleeding Edge. Shout out Didgery Dave. See you, brother. We had a couple other people in here.
And
Oh,
lefty,
Nav.
lazy left hand and Nav. My guy
Yes.
Nav. Hey.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. All right, well, let's move it on to the next one here. Wash the taste of that last bullshit out of our mouths. This is Tatiana Suarez versus Lupi Godinez. What'd you think of this one, Chase?
This one, obviously, with the finish. I mean, hindsight is everything. I had faith in Loopy, and I think this was more or less being a fan of the team she's with, and her story. She's very active. The people that she's lost to, again, the champ and or the would be champ. But I feel like in this fight, I feel like I knew deep down that she just wasn't really it. And I'm not trying to act like I know everything and make it seem like I did, but like when I saw this fight, she got the drop. She didn't drop her, of course, but she did a very good, first round. She put her down for a second, but Tatiana Suarez was able to prove why she, at the time, I don't know if she still is, but number two ranked in the division. I mean, she's a very, very tough fighter. I mean, she was able to fight. Again, I said this about, Chanel Dyer way long ago in the Contender Series. Not many women are willing to continue to get beat up. I mean, to get to this level, you have to be there. But like Tatiana Suarez obviously got to this level because she's willing to put her, life on the line, I would say. And Suarez, shout out to her because this was the performance that I needed from her for me to believe that the skill set is actually something to worry about. The striking is not necessarily the best, but the grappling does seem to be something that, listen, Mackenzie Dern's the fucking champ, right? Listen, it's a grappler fest right now. You have Virna Jandiroba. If Whaley comes back, she obviously is going to wrestle with Suarez again, if she gets the opportunity. But Suarez having the skill of grappling, it fares well for where we're at in the division. It's not like, listen, Lupe Godinez is somebody who's a little well rounded. And it would have been nice for her to get this finish against, Suarez on the feet, but her striking's just, she don't have that killer instinct to just drop somebody and go, pound them into the canvas. Suarez, though, if the fight gets down to where she needs it to be, I mean, it looks like she's able to actually capitalize. Unfortunately, in the last few bouts that she's been in, she hasn't been able to get into the her rhythm kind of deal. So I think this was good. I feel like I'm kind of sold on her still. 13-1. She came off an injury a little bit ago. Obviously, ring rust and coming back against the fucking champion. We should have being the favorite against her is just ridiculous. But as of right now, I think this is a perfect spot for her. I think growth is possible from this point on.
I like it. I mean, I think that you're hitting all the right points here. Yeah, Lupi had a little success early in round one. Tatiana navigates it and gets herself in the dominant position. That's Tatiana Suarez in a nutshell, right there. I mean, a little bit of adversity, a little bit of things to overcome from her opponents, and then she's right back in the driver's seat. I mean, like she had Lupi on her back in the first round for a long time, which Lupi Godinez is a credentialed grappler herself. I mean, she's got nice wrestling as well. Like this is really what I was expecting out of Tatiana Suarez. Also, for being such a large woman in the weight class, I mean, like, she uses her size to her advantage very well. Long legs, she's able to use those very well. Like she takes advantage of the natural gifts, and then her implied gifts are also very on display throughout, at least in this fight for sure. Dominance in that second round as well took this fight over, overcoming all the challenges. I mean, that's the name of the game for her. And then when going into the finishing sequence, she had the single arm choke there for a while. I was like, that kind of speaks to her tenacity by itself, because like she wasn't going to get the finish with the single arm, but it certainly allowed her to stay in the position long enough to get the other arm locked up. I mean, she ended up doing that. That's a wrap. This was a vintage Tatiana Suarez performance here. This was really what I was hoping to see out of her, even though I am a fan of Lupi Godinez.
Yeah, Hydra talking about her being very bad on the feet, Tatiana, that is, and I don't disagree that she's not the glamour on the feet, but listen, again, Virna, Mackenzie Dern, all these people, again, I can't name any more off the top of my head, but you get the point. These people don't have striking either. It's just like it's serviceable. We're not looking for the people that we have at the top. They're not the great strikers. Whaley is just one in a million that she's very good at striking, and she can just ragdoll these fucking women. But to have serviceable striking and have good grappling, is what Mackenzie Dern was able to do to get her fucking championship belt right now. So I would just like to say that there's still an opportunity for Tatiana, but we'll have to just see who her next opponent is, because if it's somebody who's on the come up ready to take her spot, which Loopy was supposed to be that, but at 14-6, again, we probably should have already known that she really wasn't it, you know?
Well, and that's the unfortunate part about this when it comes to Loopy. You know, I had said early on that I thought that Loopy had some of the makings of a potential champ earlier in her career. You know, it's the losses are starting to add up. You know, we're not seeing necessarily the growth that you would hope for a person who takes a loss and then comes back to be better. You know, when you're growing from losses, that kind of thing. We're not necessarily seeing that out of Loopy the way that I would hope that we would be seeing by this point. So you know, it's just one of those things. I mean, not everybody has the ability to be that person, and I wish that it could have been Loopy. I thought that she, you know, she really does have the makings of it in a formative sense. But if you can't put those pieces together farther down the line, then it becomes a moot point. It doesn't matter if you have the basis for it or not.
We have to bring this comment up because it is absolutely hilarious. When her and Patchy Mix have a kid, it probably won't be able to turn its head, let alone move it. Yeah, probably not. And that's another thing that I think Tatiana, she potentially could think that her boyfriend is that good at striking, and she's taking notes from him and pointers, and I guess they're just not teaching head
Oh,
movement around
well,
around the gym.
don't get it twisted. The two of them are a delusion power couple. I mean, like it is. Yeah, it's very. I said this on the watch along. I was like, it is very crazy to me that a person with the level of self confidence that Suarez had found the exact match in Patchy Mix, and the two of them got together. It's like there's someone for everybody. You know, soulmates, all that kind of thing. The soul's counterpart, and all of those kinds of flowery things they certainly exemplify that because I mean the two of them like I'll never forget Suarez coming into her title shot. She had this chip on her shoulder that was like so like it was giving me concern. It was giving me concern that what was going to happen was going to happen. You know what happened in the fight with Zhang Weilei. Like she comes into it with this like almost Ronda Rousey esque sort of air about her, and then just gets brutally slapped down. So it's like we saw a brutal slap down of Patchy Mix and Ryzen not too long ago too. The two of them, a little introspection goes a long way, people. There's a difference between self-confidence and delusion.
Yeah, true. Yeah, this one, all in all, though, good performance from Tatiana. Very good bounce back. Exactly what she needed to take out a fan favorite in Loopy. Appreciate it.
First time Loopy had ever been finished in her pro career, Chase.
Top of the game. I mean, that's what people who are ready to stay at the top of the division. That is what they will prove. It's not just beating you. If you've never been finished and you've never, obviously, she faced Mackenzie Dern and Virna, but that was before they were at the top of the game, kind of deal. Tatiana proved that it ain't easy at the top. It ain't easy being cheesy, is what I've heard. So
I also have heard that. Yeah, the last thing that I wanted to note about this was just Tatiana Suarez in her Octagon interview shouted out her brother, who she said had cancer. I was unsure if she meant her actual blood brother or if she was using that more figuratively, but either way, someone in her circle who had cancer, and of course, Tatiana Suarez herself, also a cancer survivor. So, just shout out to her for overcoming that very tough affliction.
absolutely good shout out. I didn't actually listen to her post fight speech. I'm surprised that she even got one. I mean, she got a finish, but we saw other people who didn't get post fight speeches. So
Yeah, no, she was surprisingly contrite in her post fight, which was a breath of fresh air based on what we were literally just talking about. So I thought it was pretty good for her. And yeah, hopefully, a little bit of humbleness and goes back. She says she wants to go on another title run, like could be valid. We'll see.
hell yeah.
All right, good deal. On to the next one here. This was a little bit of a heartbreaker for me. This, of course, is Mateusz Gamrot versus Esteban Ribovics. Ribovics, one of my favorite fighters currently, but man, I did not realize just how little he has to offer on the ground. I said, damn it, Esteban, you know that this was what was coming. I said, donde está su ground game?
This fight, I think this kind of goes back to the Loopy thing. I'm not gonna say it's in the same realm that he was never as good as as I thought. Esteban Ribovics has put on some of the more exciting fights that I've ever seen in my life, and he is one of the true great strikers in this game right now. But unfortunately, he was reaching for a position in the division where you're not just gonna get striking affairs, and I feel like I placed more stock into Rebovix, and I even said this. I didn't want to be left out if Rebovix won, if he pulled it off. Unfortunately, he didn't, and I feel like we should have known this. We should have known that Gamrot was gonna listen. Gamrot's very good, guys, and we know Gamrot's good. People don't want to admit it sometimes, but him submitting Rebovix is not that surprising to me. A very high level grappler. He got somebody to the ground who looked as if they never attempted anything off their back in their life. Yeah, he should probably submit him. I mean, it's unfortunate. It goes to the, I don't know. It's the same thing with Dan Hooker that we saw recently, fucking with Armin. If he ain't got nothing to offer, just fucking submit him. You ain't got to drag this on for 3 rounds. But Esteban, in the first round, he got taken down and he was held down for a decent amount of time. And when he got up and went to his corner, I mean, you saw the story on his face, like, we didn't fucking train right. And it's unfortunately, and I do believe this sometimes, not all the time. You can tell just how a fight is going to go based on a very small portion of it at the beginning. It sets a trend, and then as soon as that first round ends, and you kind of see how they're reacting to whatever fight came to them, it tells a lot. Body language, facial expressions. Esteban Ribovic just didn't look like he had the heart for it anymore after that first round, and that's just unfortunate because he is a dog, and I think he was just get this fight over with, and I'll definitely know for next time to just stay around the middle of the pack, I guess.
Pull the Piotr Jan and just start drilling for the rest of your life for the one thing that you need, right?
And then come for Gamrot's fucking soul, whenever he gets the belt. Yeah.
That would be the craziest comeback of all time if that did end up happening. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, I am certainly one of those Gamrot skeptics, but I cannot deny that he is certainly good at this. What he did in this fight is Gamrot doing Gamrot things. So, this was the game plan. You got a game plan for the game plan. I mean, I said Esteban just was not taking advantage of the early phases of the round. It's like you said, you set the tone for the fight early on in the fight. This is why I am always stressing coming out the gate hot and being first with your striking or the grappling or whatever you're going to be doing. Be first, period. So, he's not taking advantage of those early round portions here. Everything starts on the feet. We know this. You got to use that time effectively when you know Gamrot's game plan. And it was about as telegraphed as it could be because that is what Gamrot does. So, yeah, I mean, the only other thing I had really as a note was that when Esteban stuffed a takedown in the second round, I was like, oh, a glimmer of hope. And then instantly it is dashed by another takedown by Gamrot. Gamrot doing what Gamrot does. And that's what I've said this note for other fighters in the past too, where it's like, if the first takedown doesn't land, the second, the third, the fourth is going to be the one. But if you only know if you try it, and Gamrot is very good at keeping that tenacity up. He leans on that skill set and continues the onslaught. So I'm not mad at how this played out for Gamrot because he did the right navigation of everything, and Ribovics on the other side did not have the forethought. He did not have the forethought to know that was what was coming his way and have adequate planning for it. So really that is basically all that I have to say about this in the big picture. And then of course we can talk a little bit about that ref trying to step in. That was kind of funny.
That's what I want to talk about, of course, but I want to say, yeah, it's unfortunate to see that Gamrot didn't even have to pull out, any tricks, really. It
Yeah.
was a very basic get him to the ground, arm triangle, and call it a day. Esteban, I hate when they're like, oh, he's doing the right thing. He's doing the right defense. He's getting submitted, brother. He's
Yeah.
literally just putting his arm up, and that's it. There's nothing more there. Dan Hooker, at least, he had his arm and he would, like, he had it hooked between his leg, and it's like, okay, I can see that. But like, you're going to tell me he's doing the right thing. He's doing the right thing. No, he's fucking not, brother. And
Well,
you know how I know? It's because the ref is thinking he's about to go to sleep and starts yanking on his fucking arm, brother. Like, oh my
no.
God.
Yeah, I mean the idea is like, yes, that is the right thing to do if you actually have the wherewithal to get out of the choke, perhaps. But like, what the bigger point is, it's like that is a mid finish cope. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, sure, you're doing the right thing in the worst situation possible. It's like, yeah, you're ducking and covering during the nuclear bomb, but like you're still getting annihilated.
It's the same thing as always fighting the hands. He's pulling the hand down. It's like, oh, there, oh, you got it. It's like,
Right.
dude, yeah, he shouldn't have let it get to that point. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. If you are to the point where you're doing to answer the phone shit, you've already let him pass guard. You've already let him sink in the actual fucking. And then once again, I don't know because Ribovics, again, the way that he looked, the thing, the way that he looked once he got finished, he's like shaking his head and he's like, he hits like one of these movements. I don't know if the ref really fucked him up. I don't know, bro. Because like imagine you're in it and like you're good, you're fighting, you're doing stuff, and then some bro just starts yanking on you. It's like, oh, he probably did get the choke a little tighter. Let's be real. Come on.
Could have been, hard to say in that situation, but it was very interesting to see the ref going in, stopping the fight, then not stopping the fight, and then Ribovics goes out and he stops the fight.
I'm very surprised Gamrot just didn't let go right there. Because
True,
like the
yeah,
ref
right.
literally, he's like, yo, 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 and then Ribovics is like, get the fuck off me, dude. And then he wanted to go to sleep. It looked like he didn't want to get saved from the choke. He wanted to take his loss like a man. Uh Ribovics, I hate to say it, but I just really hope we get to see you against Michael Johnson next or something.
See if
Or
the
Drew Dober.
yeah, well, fair enough. Yeah, we'll have to see if the Michigan, the Missouri or whatever, the Michigan gangster disciples have anything to do with that fight. But
True.
no, yeah, it would. But how crazy would it have been though if Gamrot did let go of the choke at that point and the referee was like, "Nope, fight's still on."
Yeah, I that would have been, icing on top of the cake for this fight card, but we will just be praising God that that didn't happen. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. So look, shout out to Mateusz Gamrot. This was a perfectly fine win. Not trying to cast any aspersion on him for picking Esteban Ribovics. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, and Esteban did not have a game plan for it. This went as it was supposed to go, in my opinion.
I don't make it seem like Gamrot handpicked this opponent.
Uh,
Rib
no, I don't think anybody handpicks. Well, we'll talk about it.
You
We'll talk
said the
about
way
it.
he picked. You said
Oh, I said
Gamrot
the
for
way that I
picking the
picked. The way that I picked.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I was like, Gamrot, he gave an opportunity to somebody way lower ranked than him,
No, 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 no. No. I'm saying the way that
Okay,
me predicting the fight.
gotcha. Yeah, this was bet with my heart on this one, not my head. That was the
Fair
unfortunate part.
well, it worked out, I suppose, right? Did you pick Ribovics too?
Yeah, we both picked Ribovics.
Oh, okay. Shoot, I did not know that. Okay, all right. Well, either way, Gamrot gets the win, and I'm, like I said, not mad about it. I think that it was a well-deserved victory based on him doing exactly what you knew he was going to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Shout out to John Dong, by the way. Appreciate you, John.
Hell yeah, pink wave hand emoji or whatever you just did. Love it.
Hell yeah. All right, next up, this was a fun one. This was Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. This was a good paced fight, even though it was a little bit, at least in the first round, I said that it was a good pace, good start to the fight, even if it was a little bit of like an active feel out, it felt. And then, of course, thereafter, there was a crazy choke that somehow Randy was able to survive, which, definitely G shit, but either way, not able to pull the victory off in the big picture.
This fight, unfortunately, with a Kevin Holland, fight, you are expecting, lights, cameras, action kind of deal. But this fight itself, I don't believe this is one of the better, not to say a better Kevin Holland performance, because obviously he won, he did a great job, with the opponent. I think this is one of those matchups that we really expect fireworks, and we don't necessarily get all that we're thinking it's going to be. Because this fight, it kind of had a finish written all over it for a little bit of it because Randy Brown comes in here and gets his legs chewed up immediately. He's got these big old knots on his knees, on his shins. I thought surely he's the type of guy that's not going to be able to finish this fight. So I want to go ahead and give him credit because as much as I do not like him and he has his shtick where he talks when he's up and shuts up when he's down, he was able to tank through a lot of these low kicks and they looked painful. They looked like they was hurting, and he's got these long legs. What did they say about John Jones? There's no room for the swelling to go. Very good performance for Randy Brown to be able to continue the fight, continue losing a fight. Again, I'll bring it up. It takes a real fighter to understand that they are losing and to continue trying their hardest to get to the bell. Laying down and quitting is easy. We will definitely talk about some things later, but Kevin Holland, I was confident he'd be able to get this fight done. He has more skills. He utilizes them more efficiently, I would say. The stand up did not look the greatest from either one of them in this fight. I think again is because it's just kind of two of the same builds and they two similar styles. The Darce choke or whatever we were getting from Kevin Holland, I was very, very surprised that Randy Brown got out of this because again, Kevin Holland, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, I've seen him finish people with chokes. I've seen him get out of chokes that he should not. He's the only person that I've seen, you answer the phone and then again roll out of it somehow. I don't know how he does the things he does, but it makes me believe that yes, there are some extensive training in jujitsu that makes him more than just the average. So him not being able to finish one of his favorite chokes, very, very surprising to me. But again, I think I want to give more props to Randy Brown for being able to withstand and get to the decision here. While it wasn't the most entertaining fight from Kevin Holland, it's proving that he still is just willing to do what it takes to win. He wants to win fights, guys. As much as you may not believe it, if he's in Miami and he gets to smoke his 10 blunts before the card, he is going to win a fight. I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, it really just goes to what we said on the predictions, where it was like he's due for a win. So I was okay with that to be the case. I mean, he needed the win, and this is the pattern that he keeps himself in. So the win was due, and he got the win. That's not a problem there. It is crazy. You talked about the anaconda choke in the second. I mean, Randy Brown certainly G for staying in that and staying in this entire fight. Holland's cardio is what stuck out to me. Really, I mean, like his cardio really holding up throughout all of his career. I mean, Randy was gassing about halfway or just before halfway through the third round, and Kevin was still pretty fresh, moving around fresh. I thought this was a little bit more of a better scrap than maybe you're making it out to be. I enjoyed this fight decently. Striking maybe left a little to be desired. There were a lot of like single shots at range because they're both so tall. So that kind of like you've been nice to see a little more combos and stuff like that. But overall, I was pretty happy with the quality of this fight. The one thing I thought was a little ridiculous was commentary. Just you talked about Randy Brown, being the guy that'll talk when he's up and then shut up when he's down. Well, we know Kevin Holland talks no matter what, and commentary just fucking giggling like schoolgirls, glazing the fuck out of Kevin Holland's antics. It was so cringe. He's like, "Oh, dude,
He wants to play basketball with him after.
dude, I mean, it's like you get Joe Rogan and DC together, and it is just like it's Chuckle City, bro. I mean, and I'm not even a hater of either of them, but what I said on the watch along is that like you can only have one goofball per commentary team. You know what I mean? You get two goofballs together, and then it just becomes a goof fest, and you just can't have that. You get you got to have Anik, and then if you want DC in there, you got to have Felder. You can't have Rogan and DC, then you end up with what we got here. And yes, the two of them just oh man, Kevin Holland, he's so funny. Blah blah. Let's like talk about what's actually happening in the fights a little bit, guys. Like, and stop glazing this absolute nonsense. Which, of course, there's plenty more nonsense to come.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely continue the glaze fest, but yeah, this fight it didn't really do it for me, And I know Kevin Holland has entertaining fight in his blood. I just don't know if maybe it just didn't do it for me for this one.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Like it wasn't like like you said, fireworks. I wasn't like doing backflips over it, but I thought it was fine. I'd also thought that 30-27 for Kevin was correct. I mean, unfortunate because I thought Randy put a pretty good effort up in this fight, but Kevin won all three rounds, so 30-27 is accurate. So good deal.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? So you know how they always bring up the stat Kevin Holland is the only person to have finished somebody with punches off of his back or whatever from that Jacare Souza
Jacare,
guy.
sure.
Randy Brown got finished off of punches from his back by Nico fucking Price. So somebody brought this up in my chat, and I was thinking like that is like the whole thing that they ride Kevin Holland off. It was like that clip right there. He's the only dude to do that. Nico Price has done that to Randy Brown with punches. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Well, then maybe Nico Price deserves a little bit more respect than what we were giving him before, right, Chase? Huh?
I don't know about that one, chat. Let me know if this is the case.
Hey, shout out to Nico. Enjoy your retirement, Nico. We'll give you the time on the mic on last week's fights. How about that?
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, either way, shout out to Kevin Holland. Like I said, I mean, he was due for a win. He got the win. The script is continuing to go according to plan.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. Your featured prelim of the evening was, of course, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico, a Bellator main event as a UFC featured prelim. Madness in the Big 2-6. Chase, what did you think of this fight?
Well, as we took Aaron Pico, I thought this fight was. I didn't actually know how this fight was going to turn out. This was a little harder for me to predict what could go down because Aaron Pico, I saw what he did against Lerone. But Patricio Pitbull, I seemingly forgot that he's just a counter striker. He just sits on the back foot and is just wait to drop these big bombs. And for the first round, I actually was believing in it. I was like, fuck. I'm an idiot. This dude, he has the power to knock people out. And if Pico gets confident, which it looks like he's kind of gaining confidence, he's gonna walk right into one of these big punches again. And surprisingly, round two, Aaron Pico turned the fucking temperature up, and this dude went crazy. I mean, round three was is awesome as well, but Aaron Pico put on. I mean, Pitbull is a decent fighter. I saw, and actually, unfortunately, let me make a great comparison because maybe this is going to speak a lot. Pitbull is the guy who made me realize that Yair Rodriguez has a potential for a good fighter. I saw the good fighter in him, but that's because Pitbull does nothing and just gets punched, basically. Aaron Pico, I saw the potential against Lerone, but I think maybe I'm also being a little clouded here. He got the style against somebody who doesn't fucking do anything. He just stands there, backs up, and he he's waiting to unload. But Pico gained confidence, which I don't want to say is a bad thing. It kind of looks like it still might be a bad thing because he walks into some shots. I mean, he granted he took some shots on the chin and he ate him from a very powerful striker. But Aaron Pico gets very confident and he gets a little too up close and personal because when he's ready to go, when he's locked in, he's fluid, he's really on the outside, he's popping really good combinations. But then you start to see him kind of loosen up and then he gets cracked and then he has to like lock back in kind of deal. I really I I really like Aaron Pico. The record does not show that I think he's a better talent than what we're believing. He's a lot bigger for the weight class than I feel like people are gonna, acknowledge. Like this dude probably could go up to 55 very easily. But I think in this matchup, we're looking at Patricio Pitbull. So I mean, it's kind of a shorter kind of guy. There's one thing that I want to talk about specifically with Aaron Pico, and this is, the post-fight little scrum meeting, whatever you want to say, when they go back. He was talking about the knockout with Lerone. Aaron Pico, I feel for you, brother. He said, I got knocked out brutally after a fight I was winning, in front of millions of people. The whole world saw it on a pay-per-view, and I was embarrassed. I was at a low point. That was like the most embarrassed that I've ever felt in my life, kind of thing. And he's been knocked out before. He's been finished, but he truly believes that the time that he has been finished, he's just been caught, in bad positioning. It's not necessarily because his chin is glass. People want to make the jokes, and he sees them. He doesn't like them, but hey, he's out here to try to prove you guys wrong. He's not, glass chin. He's just somebody who has made mistakes and got a little too overzealous and then got caught. And I still see the overzealousness in this fight, but I think his chin held up. Let me just say that because he was catching some shots from Pitbull, but he looked like a very good fighter once again. I really liked Aaron Pico in this fight. I liked him in the fight before for the first round that we got. I think it's kind of funny that he called out Lerone for the rematch, but who am I to say? It's
Yeah.
good deal though. Aaron Pico's a really fun guy. I like this. He did another thing, and then I'll let you go because he didn't get an actual post fight, thing with Joe Rogan. He was like, "Man, I've always dreamed to be in this moment right here. I always wanted to get a win in the UFC and talk to Joe Rogan, and I didn't get to do that. But so here I am, and it's still good. So it was pretty funny. He's a pretty down to earth guy. I really like him. Aaron Pico's
True.
cool.
Yeah, well, get a finish, and I'm sure you'll get that at some point, right? Yeah.
The last thing, he trains in Morocco. I don't know if you knew
Oh,
this.
that somebody brought that up in the chat. Actually, I believe it was Rick Allen. Shout out to chat legend Rick Allen. But he had brought it up in the chat, and I did not realize this. I don't know exactly what that means because he was saying that the King of Morocco himself is apparently somehow involved with Aaron Pico's training.
That's how it is over there. So like when in the Moroccan team, so like Nurdiev and fucking Nasrat Hakparas and probably Rahiki. I'm pretty sure it's like the prince, I believe. I don't know if it's the king or I don't know what it is, but he like oversees the gym or whatever. He
Well,
just like puts a
fair.
shitload of money into it. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
no,
sure that's how that works.
that I'm not disputing, but how did Aaron Pico get involved in any of that? Is he of Moroccan descent? I don't know if he
I,
has. You know.
I've always been curious because he is American, but when I look at him with his facial hair grown out, I mean he does kind of look like he might be from another ethnicity
Yeah.
mixed in somewhere. So potentially Moroccan, or he's just a part of the club and they've brought him on, just like some other people, like Nurdiev. He's Moroccan, but I don't know if he's 100% or if they brought him on, or wherever. Oh, Rahiki, of course, from New Zealand or whatever. And then he goes to and he's trained in Morocco as well.
Well,
So
he's definitely of Moroccan descent, but yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's an interesting note. I mean, shout out to King of Morocco if he's helping these fighters out. I guess I don't know too much about Morocco, but cool, good deal.
Oh God, Nav with this great point. Yes, at the end of the fight, Pico was playing the
Oh,
long con
I'm gonna
here.
I'm
He
gonna get to that.
Oh,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah,
go
for
ahead.
sure. So yeah, but no, I wanted to agree. I mean, I thought the Pico looked really solid in this fight, but of course, it is against an aged pit bull at this point, so it's hard for me to like 100% come around. Also, we do have the what you had talked about with like CT was is like kind of hypercritical of Pico and was saying that he's got really low fight IQ. He's taken some bad knockouts in Bellator to guys who may not have been of the same caliber. All of those things. I'm seeing some of those elements, and I do have like a level of agreement with some of that. But really, I mean, time will tell, once he gets back against another higher level fighter. And that's what I had said to CTE's criticism. I had said, look, I will grant you that maybe this performance against Pitbull does not give us the full story. I will withhold my judgment for the next fight. But within this fight, which we are talking about here, I thought that Pico looked really solid. I mean, like aside from the one shot in the first round, which was really the one that sticks out the most to me, where Pitbull just landed the solid straight to Pico's nose. That was the one that opened the cut on the bridge of his nose. Aside from that, I thought that Pico really got himself into a pretty good flow state. And like you said, there are times where he had to kind of like shake himself out and get back into it based on him taking some damage. So really, I mean, like if I would say anything, it's work on your strike defense. That would be the main thing that you need to do because he's a seriously credentialed wrestler. I'd said that coming into this fight. I was like, anything that I had seen of him in the past certainly did not scream fraudulence when it came to his wrestling acumen. And I believe that still to be true. I mean, anything that I've seen wrestling wise was pretty solid from him. His boxing has gotten really nice, except for the defense. So if he can work on the defense, I think that there are the makings of a pretty solid, well rounded fighter here. And it showed in this fight. Will it be able to show against a higher level competitor? That remains to be seen, and that will be what hopefully we will see in his next fight. But this is what allows him to get that next fight. So I had nothing negative to say about Pico in that regard. Pitbull, I said actually, I thought was a better competitor in this fight than we have seen him in other fights because he was more dynamic in this fight than usual. I thought it was nice to see he wasn't his normal mannequin self out there, just waiting for things to happen. He was actually trying to initiate a little bit more. Commentary had said, he acknowledged that he needed to be a little bit more first, a little bit more tenacious in his fight. And I said, that actually showed. So it gave Pico a little bit more adversity. I liked all of that aspect of it too. He dropped Pitbull as well. I thought that this was a nice showing for Pico.
I did too as well. I think what'd you have to say about the ending sequence where
Oh, well,
Pitbull
I thought you had something you wanted to interject, but
I
yes, no.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, so yeah, no, I thought that was an interesting note because yeah, so Pitbull basically asks, and if you go back to Max Holloway, Pitbull did the point to the ground. If you recall, Max, the originator of it, saying that that is what the person that is winning is supposed to do that, and then allow the person to have the shot. So to come back with that. So basically, Pitbull kind of like went against the grain with that because he was the person losing, asking for the shot, and Pico.
Normally.
Yeah, well, which is what either way. I mean, like I'm not too hung up on that aspect of it, but I thought Pico very savvily, I didn't think it was a bad thing. He very politely declines. He gives him the money sign. He's like, hey, no, I'm going to take the cash, brother. I'm not going to risk it right now. I was not super upset with this, but then I hear, from the haters, the Pico haters out there, oh, he didn't want to throw down with this old man. What am I supposed to take away from that? I'm like, that he wanted to win.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to take away? I thought it was fine. Do you have a different opinion?
No, I definitely don't. I thought it was pretty funny. Pico walked away with his show and win money. This is exactly, that's exactly what he needed to do. It's funny because in a way he made his own viral moment out of it. I think it was a little funny. He did the money sign and he pointed, I'm smarter than that, of course. So just I liked it. I'm proud of Aaron Pico for going out here and getting this dub is what I want to go ahead and say.
Yeah, well, and it also, I mean, guys, like, we all want to see like the holy shit moments. We all want the big, the fireworks and all of that. I cannot fault a fighter for going out, winning decisively, and then not wanting to throw all of that away potentially just for you guys to have a crazy moment. You know what I mean? Like the fighter's got to be the one navigating his career. The fighter's got to be the one looking out for his own self-interest. Would it have been cool? Sure, it's always going to be cool if they throw down at the end of the fight like that and just throw caution to the wind. But I'm not upset that he didn't, I guess is what I
Yeah.
would want to say.
The last thing that I want to say is about halfway through the ass whooping that we were getting from, Aaron Pico to Pitbull, I realized, man, 37-9. Pitbull has been around for a really long time. He is not gonna get finished by Pico. I mean, it's not that Pico couldn't finish him, but Pitbull is one tough SOB, brother. This guy was getting because at a certain point nothing is going well for him. He's getting everything is just getting, denied, neutralized. He's getting countered. He's still willing to just walk in there, head held high, hands out, and just get a third round of an ass whooping. So I give him credit. He's done that for 46 fights, apparently. I don't fucking know. Apparently, he's been really good for majority of them. But if a lot of them look like this, or some of them look like this, to continue wanting to go on, I mean, damn, he is a tough guy. I'll give you that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Pitbull's face was all kinds of messed up at the end of this thing. So, yeah, you can definitely see the toughness on display there. Former champion in a different promotion. I mean, it all tracks. So, yeah, shout out to Pitbull on this one. I mean, it takes two to tango, and this turned out to be a pretty good scrap overall. Unfortunate note with that, though, was that, Patricio Pitbull in the UFC, his brother Patricky Pitbull was also fighting on the same evening in Ryzen and also lost. So, not a great evening for the Pitbull brothers.
Yeah, that's just unfortunately how it goes.
It is. It is the name of the game. But shout out to Aaron Pico. Nice win. We'll keep you around in the UFC, and hopefully, can replicate that against a bit of a better opponent, perhaps.
Absolutely.
All right, good deal. Well, that rounds out the prelims. Let's start off on the main card with the fairy tale of the evening. Oh boy, do I have something to say about this. This is Cub Swanson versus Nate Landwehr. Just to start this thing off, we literally were just talking about a guy named Michael Chiesa. You remember this, Chase? Michael Chiesa
Mhm.
retired recently. One fairy tale retirement was not enough for my guy Cub Swanson. So instead, we got Michael Chiesa part two. They really brought Cubs family cage side, like Chiesa, gave him a layup fight, like Chiesa, where his opponent did fucking nothing, like Chiesa's opponent, gave him the round one finish, like Chiesa, and then gave him the video package, like Chiesa.
I mean, you don't even have to keep mentioning that it's like Chiesa. I mean, yeah, it's very similar, but this is just going to be the norm, is what it looks like. Not for people like Nico Price, unfortunately, but if you are a touted veteran in the sport, yeah, I mean, you're just going to get a video pack. Once again, what is up with Cub Swanson in Miami? What is up with Florida and Cubs? He's from California, and he retired last year in Florida. Comes back, retires again in
I
Florida. What
I
is up
said
with
this.
this?
Yeah, I said the same thing. I did think it was kind of funny. It's like, yeah, he's getting all of this stuff happening in Florida when he is a California guy. That was not lost on me. But no, I'm not even talking about the video package. I'm talking about the fact that this was so tremendously close to the same script is what I'm
Mm.
saying here. I mean, now look, I said it on the previous episode, and I'll say it here again. Cub Swanson is one of my all-time favorite fighters. When I got to see the knockout of Billy Quarantillo live in Tampa, Florida, it was one of the great moments of my life as an MMA fan. It's exactly what I said about this fight. I did not need this fight. I didn't think that Cub needed this fight. So to see him get the red carpet rolled out so that he could take out Nate Landwehr, who did jack shit in this fight. Nate did nothing in this fight. So, I mean, this was just such an absolute layup that did not need to happen. He already got it one time. He gets it a second time with the wife and kids in tow. I'm like, what is the purpose of all of this aside from we're going to do right by you, Cub? Here's your easy layup. And even against a guy who is not supposed to be an easy layup, Nico Price. That's one thing. Nate Landwehr, we have seen Nate Landwehr go to war. We literally both picked Nate Landwehr to win this fight.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, first round knockout is all in well, video package all in well, family talking to Donald Trump all in well. This stoppage had give him the first round finish written all over it. It was, listen, it wasn't an early stop by the metric that Nate was not in trouble at all because this dude was getting flopped like a fish all over the fucking cage. But this is a normal Nate fucking performance. Like, this is what we expect from this guy. So the fact that he wasn't necessarily knocked unconscious and he was still continuing to go, I'm pretty upset because we have all these opportunities. You know, when you see people, and we talk about they give special privileges to fighters who have been here. He's been here long enough. You know, he's a warrior. You got to give him that little extra moment to work for it. They didn't give Nate that shit at all. They ended this shit. But this dude was on his fucking feet by the time they ended it. I mean, it's just unfortunate. But when you realize that it's Cub Swanson going out on retirement, they needed that first round knockout to happen. If he didn't get it right there and he lost, I mean, they just lost a whole big moment, you
Well,
know?
I mean, that the only thing I dispute, you're exactly right about that. The only thing I dispute is that, I mean, this is not what we expect from Nate Landwehr. I mean, like, he literally was a human punching bag out there. He did literally nothing. I mean, like, they're saying that he had 15 significant strikes.
Yeah.
Fucking where? Show me the strikes. Are the strikes in the room with us right now? What are you talking about? 15 significant strikes. It's ridiculous. I said that he had no power, no intensity, no movement, no level changes. Bro was a punching bag. That is literally the note. Cub put out a power shot. Nate did nothing. So Cub just keeps on going with the power shots. Why not if you're not doing anything? I mean, like, Nate got back down. He got pieced up. I mean, this is just, it was unfathomable to me that this was the like performance that we were seeing. And then DC, oh, this was another one, bro. I mean, like, keen ear upon the rewatch. I was like, you got to be kidding me with this. Talking about the script being in, DC literally had the nerve to say, Cub thinks he has now felt the power and speed of Nate. The power and speed? Where? Again,
Yeah.
are they in the room with us? What are you talking about? I said 70K in a manila envelope to Nate the Train.
Yeah, probably. And 10-7 just went ahead and said that as well. You know, feel like the UFC gave Nate the bag to sell. I When I saw Nico Price go down to Robbie Lawler, again, that one was not fluky at all. This one, not a fluky performance, of course. But I had realized then there is something up with retirement fights, brother. I mean, you just can't write it better. And no other sport do you get these fairy tale send-offs like this. It's just somehow happens in the one sport that I'm supposed to believe anything can happen, you know. I
Well,
don't know.
that's the thing, is that it wasn't always that way. I mean, there were plenty of times in previous eras, like, where a retirement fighter, a person you knew was going to be retiring, a guy who'd been in the organization for a long time, they'll go out on a loss, and it's like, yeah, dude, it sucks. You're at the end of your career. They'll still send him off correctly. You still give him his time on the microphone. He can still address the fans. Like, all of that all tracks. But just to have it now being like exactly that, a fairy tale ending, more and more. I mean, like, again, you got to answer me this question. If it's not a fix, why are they moving the family cage side? I mean, because you're literally saying then that you're moving the family cage side with the possibility that they could, at front row, up close and personal, watch their dad and their husband get knocked out. It does not track to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. I just it's too much. It's too close to the narrative to not be feeling like something is fishy, especially now seeing a pattern that has formed. And last thing, shout out to the 10-7 MMA.
Yeah, absolutely. This fight, unfortunately, wasn't much of a fight. Nate went in there, put his hands up, and just got, again, flopped around the fucking cage like a fish for a little bit. While it was early and he could have continued to get his ass whooped, um, it's what we got. It is the send off that we got for this card. I mean, who's going to be next week? I don't know, but we will soon find out.
Yep. And, like I said, one of my all time favorites. So, congratulations, Cub. You got retirement part two, and both of them going out on knockout victories. So, yeah.
See, for somebody like me, it just sucks because I saw the Billy Q knockout and it's like, damn, that's a really crazy way to go out. That is one hell of a way to go out. That's your fairy tale ending. But then when you see this shit, it's like, man, what the fuck was that? You ruined a good send off retirement for real.
Imagine that. And I was the one saying, coming into this fight, you could potentially be ruining your whole fairy tale the other way. But now it's ruined for you, in the good ending.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's
Crazy to think
crazy.
about. Yeah.
I know.
All right. Well, that is what it is. Shout out to Cub Swanson on a epic career that ends in an odd fashion, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next one here. Oh, buddy boy. Chase, remind me, did we do the worst fights of the year as a metric on our year-end wrap-up?
I don't think we did. We did the made me upset of the year.
Ah,
So
okay. Well
this
then,
potentially is going to make its way onto the list.
yeah, I
Yeah.
will. I will add that as the category if I do not already have it. Of course, we are talking about Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. Quite the dance between these two gentlemen, just two stepping in front of each other for three whole rounds. What'd you think, Chase?
There's just one main thing that I want to talk about, and I
Yes.
really don't have many things else to say about this because there's nothing to talk about. This again goes to the commentary glaze. This fight starts, man. Dominic Reyes, he's people praise him when they go in the gym. They know that guy is the highest fight IQ in the game. And then I watched for 3 rounds DC, the dude who just said that. He sat there and said, all he has to do is step left. All he has to do is step to his left, and Johnny Walker's right in front of him. 3 rounds of that. He never once did that. Highest fight IQ in the game. Everybody in the room, thinks that this guy is the smartest when it comes to the fight game. But stepping left is his fucking kryptonite.
That
I
well,
got it.
that and a shit ton of leg kicks. I mean, like that was the one thing I had early on in this fight was I truly thought that Johnny Walker had won this fight with leg kicks alone. I was like, that was the only real significant thing that had happened. Reyes had a couple of high kicks that connected a little bit. I was like, this is one of those fights that it was so boring that you're having to go through it with a microscope to try to figure out where there's anything significant to give somebody a round or not for. And this is on rewatch. I mean, I literally had to sit and rewatch this fight. I'm looking at it and I'm like, what are the things that I'm going to say are the things that give either person a round here? And I thought that the leg kicks for Walker was at least something because there was so much nothing that I needed a something.
Yeah, I also think that Johnny Walker won this fight, but when they read out the scorecard, I just wish they would have gave it a draw somehow. Like this was horrible. Nobody deserves a win. Nobody deserves upward trajectory after a performance like this.
Right.
That's the unfortunate part. So while I think Johnny Walker won, Dominic Reyes walks away with it and pray to God that he does not get an opponent upwards. Like Jesus Christ. The thing is the thing that made me mad about this performance is while instead of trying to actually set something up against each other, Dominic Reyes, the Devastator, whatever this dude's name is, this dude's got a mean boxing game. He sat there trying to set up fucking spin kicks. This fucking guy's like you can't make this shit up, dude. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought it was also very funny seeing Eric Nixick in Johnny Walker's corner between rounds. This was actually specifically between the second and third round. So this is going into the third round. Nixick is saying, push the pace. I was like, push the pace of this fight? Push the
You
pace of this fight.
you didn't hear what he said going into the second round?
What do you say?
You're fighting a beautiful fight right now.
Oh, well then there you go. I mean, look, I guess everything went right according to plan. This is Pat Barry all over again with Rose versus Carla too.
Yeah, that I think they even brought that up on the commentary. They said, "Man, at least with Rose and Carla, like there was grappling or something going on. This you can't even talk about anything."
Yeah, this was
I
I mean, there was not much of anything. The crowd was booing before the decision was announced. I thought that that was very telling. It's like they're basically signaling that no matter who wins, we all lost, which is exactly how I felt about this fight. And you want to know a very funny point, Chase? I didn't actually do this as a short, but I was contemplating doing it, and I didn't have the time for it today. But I have been of the habit of putting out shorts of funny little editing moments when it comes to the VODs of these fights because I watch them all back. Paramount cut the VOD before they had announced Reyes's full last name. They literally
nice.
it was winner by unanimous decision, Dominic Rey, and that was it. And
Yep.
it's like, bro, even Paramount Plus was like, nah, we ain't sticking around for this one.
Yeah, no, I definitely this fight here just blows. I'm just glad we don't have much to say about it.
That's really all that you can say about it. So, I don't even really, usually I'll be like, yeah, shout out to Dominic Reyes for a fine win or whatever. This was one that we all lost collectively. So, we move on and we add this one to the fights that made us most upset of the year. I'll have to go back on the fight tracker and put that one in there.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, up next is potentially the exact opposite: Curtis Blades versus Josh Hokett. Now, I mean, we have not gone over the whole Josh Hokett rigmarole with his characters and all of that stuff. If you want to touch on that, we can. I don't really like have all that much to say about it in this instance. There probably will be some type of video or something going over that at some point, I would suspect. Um, Suffice to say, I am not a fan of Josh Hokett, and I also do not think that he needs to do the antics that he presents before fights. Obviously, if this is the level of fighter that he is in the fight. That being said, in the fight, he kind of lived up to the things that I thought were the truth. I said, sadly, the things I thought about Hokett that were true actually turned out to be correct. He is fast. He's got power in his hands. His wrestling is good. His chin is also good. And his cardio is at least above average at heavyweight. Sadly, with all of the antics, it makes it a very tainted image, but he does appear to be somewhat of the real deal.
I will agree with you. As somebody who is also not really here to talk about the antics outside the cage and or in the cage, we will bring up, some of them, of
Sure.
course. But I think it's unfortunate that the confidence doesn't seem to be there, And obviously, that sounds crazy, but you gotta hear me out. If he was confident that he could put on a fight like this, fight of the fucking lifetime, whatever you want to say, fight of the year, he wouldn't have to fucking do a whole character outside the thing, you
Yeah,
know?
you are correct. I think I said that in your on the street word. Basically, it was I said that the whole antics screams insecurity, and it does kind of boggle the mind why he is feeling that this is the appropriate way to navigate his career when he is capable of a fight like this.
That's exactly what I said. I said it's unfortunate that he feels that he needs to have some extra, curricular style of, marketing when this right here, this does all the talking itself. This fight right here, a fight like this, showing that you're willing to go all the way to the bell even when it doesn't go your way. That is that you did all the talking right there. You didn't need all the other stuff. All the other stuff, it could even go out the window if you continue fighting like this. We could disregard it and just not even talk about it. You can continue to do it, and I just don't even care if you continue to fight like this. That's the main thing. It comes down to what you do in the cage. And I think Josh Hokett, again, lived up to a lot of different things. Maybe there were people out there who believed that he wasn't going to be anything, as crazy. He did show cardio, fast hands. I will say this, and just to critique, just to make sure that he knows that he's not, the shit. For somebody who is potentially a power puncher, you landed 181 of them things on Curtis Blades. I mean, in my mind, you probably should have finished him. As bad as it got in this fight, you probably should have finished him. The thing that I will say about Hokik, which is most impressive. Now, again, when you go to the in-ring in cage antics that he has. There was two different things. Obviously, he's flipping the middle finger, which he did it a couple different times. A little storyboard. If you want to go to the pro wrestling mindset that he has, I think that was a decent little thing. If it was in a ring, sure, but in the cage, there's no need for it. He also was doing the whole I'm wobbled playing possum type of thing, which I want to give him credit because he one was not as hurt as I believe that he was alluding to be. There were times where he was rocked, but I think he was just playing it up for the camera, like I'm hurt, like we're having such a crazy scrap in here, which goes to credit that he does have a chin. I mean, he was 100% willing to keep getting punched in the face, and he's going to have a good time doing it. He's having an entertaining moment, like oh you got me kind of deal. So I will give him credit on that end, and also I mean there was the moment in round one where Curtis got the takedown. It was after a flurry came. Curtis got the takedown, and I remember typing in the Discord. And I'm glad I didn't speak too soon. It was soon that I spoke, but I didn't say anything too crazy. All I said was, "Thank you, Blades." He gave us exactly what we needed to see out of Hoka. He didn't win. Obviously, it was a little close. I'm of the assumption that you're not supposed to judge the blood that comes in round one every single round as the damage towards somebody. So it was a lot closer of a fight than maybe the judges gave kind of deal. And we already knew who they were going to give it to when it was close. But the point is, I could disregard everything Josh Hokett does outside the cage. I will just not watch it. If you are able to put on performances like this consistently, now we'll talk about his next things going forward. So go ahead, talk about this fight a little more.
Yeah, I think you brought up the takedown in the first round for Curtis. This sadly, and I know that a lot of people don't want to go along with my line of thinking here, but I have been very vocal about my feelings when it comes to Curtis Blades. I like Curtis Blades a lot as a person. I want to make that very clear. I think I have made that very clear. I think he is a very genuinely good person. He also has a pronounced stutter that he has overcome. It's an affliction that has been a hindrance in his life. He is, I think, a very solid at his core individual. But I cannot get around the fact that he is praised so highly in the heavyweight division as an elite wrestler when I have always called it phantom wrestling. I said in this fight, Curtis is phantom wrestling on full display. No flush takedowns. I mean, he did have him down on the ground, at least on his knees. He gets the back control, and then Hokit is able to just stand the fuck up. I mean, this is one of those instances where it's like Curtis just he wants to give people the not him, like, people want to have the impression of him that he is, I think, a level farther up than he actually has displayed over the course of his career. And that's not his fault. It's more heavyweight's fault, I would say. I mean, it's just the nature of the division being somewhat shallow in that department. But then you end up putting him up against a guy like Hokit who has the answers for those things, and it really goes to show just the level that Curtis is at when it comes to that specific point. Now, his toughness, I don't think anybody can argue that. I mean, this guy went through 3 rounds of absolute hell. I mean, this dude was looking like a horror movie by the end of this thing. Bloodied up all over the place, still swinging, still trying to rock him. Joe Rogan had said that Hokit's shorts were pink with blood, and that was accurate. That most of it was Curtis's. So I got to give him a lot of credit for having the will to win, even in adversity. Kind of the same note you gave about Randy Brown, like that was on display here to an extent. There were moments earlier on that it was a little bit closer, but I think over the course of this thing, it became very clear that Hokit was going to be the one winning. You don't agree with that?
Oh no, it became clear that he was going to be the one winning because they were going to give it to him if it was close. But I personally, I mean, I
Well,
watched
why?
this.
So hold on a second. Why do you say that?
The UFC has, listen, they have an entertaining prospect, so to speak. This is a guy that's going to get them clicks. When you find out what happens after this fight, you can
Right.
see that this
That,
falls in line even more, that
that
they needed this fight to go through because you know who's sitting right next to him is the guy who really likes fucking Derek Lewis, who needs a fucking opponent, brother.
Yeah,
So
you are you took the words right out of my mouth. So yeah, I mean, just to finish up the thoughts on the actual fight itself, I'm in the same boat with you. It's like I do not like all of the antics. I think it is completely unnecessary. I don't like the sport getting anywhere closer to WWE than it already has become. It certainly felt that way in this instance with what we saw out of this. Now, what I would also add on to your note there is not only that the judges might have gone to Hokit for that reason, but also the sport is optics. And when you have a guy who is, doing what Hokit was doing in this fight, and then also doing the emoting, it signals to the judges that you are more confident, that you have the body language is there more. Again, it's a projection of dominance that whether it's true or not is almost secondary.
I think that is the more interesting point to note out is because if you want to talk about optics, if Curtis Blades gets cut, that's fine. But Josh Hokett is wanting to have the appearance to the audience and to his opponent that he is of wobbled. Okay, if he's doing a good enough job, and even the commentators are sitting there screaming, "Oh my God, he's hurt! He's hurt! He's hurt!" Are the judges thinking that like because that's where I was thinking. It's like, man, if he's really selling it, if he's really selling that he's wobbled, to lure Curtis Blades in there, the judges would be thinking, "Oh man, he's fucking hurt, man. He's really hurt. Like that's a really damaging thing. Like he's wobbled around the thing. We even saw Cutelaba. The referee stepped in while he was on the feet while he was doing that shit against Ankalaev the first time they fought. Like it's if we want to talk about optics and how Hokit won because of optics, I mean, the judges probably looked at that. He's getting wobbled all across the fucking cage. I thought this fight was a lot closer than what it seemed. Upon rewatch, I still, again, when it comes to Blades, this is a fighter who is 19-6, who's been cut open plenty of times. He's got a lot of scar tissue against somebody who's 9-0, who came from a sport where he wears helmets. He's not going to bleed as much as the other guy. So if he gets split open in the first fucking punch of the fight, and then he bleeds for 3 rounds, yeah, that's a cut being opened. So when I look at Curtis Blades getting cut open very, very early in the fight, I don't take too much into consideration because Hoket's wanted me to believe that he's wobbled all over the fucking cage. So that's why, again, it's hard to. This is a hard fight to gauge, I would say. But from what I have understood, from what Curtis has said, he has a broken orbital. He's got a broken nose. But hell of a fight he put on, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what you can take away from it. I mean, Curtis really tried his best out there and got bested by Hokit. I do agree that Hokit won the fight. So I mean, let's keep it 100 here. And all of the antics, I guess, apparently were going over well with somebody because, as you alluded to, Chase, mid card, this is a very rare thing to happen, but this fight concluded, and mid card, Dana went live on Instagram to announce to the world that Josh Hokit will be fighting Derek Lewis on the White House card.
Yeah, so what's unfortunate about that is we just saw the hardest fight of Josh Hokit's career. We saw the hardest test that he's had to date. And now they're going to give him an opponent that's going to fall over and quit at the White House. That's the unfortunate part. Derek Lewis is going to give it a good 30 seconds. He'll probably whiff a big punch and get taken down, and Hokit will probably TKO him. And that's just, and it's not going to be like, oh my God, he fucking finished Derek Lewis. It's like Derek Lewis just rolled over and didn't do anything.
Yeah,
And
you know
that's
what
that.
what I think a lot of people are forgetting about the White House card specifically when it comes to this fight that you're talking about. This is an event that is taking place outdoors, people. They are going to be out in the elements for this fight. So you not only have Derek Lewis, who indoors has those kinds of performances, but now you also add the relative humidity, the heat of summertime, all of those other elements as well. Yeah, I could imagine Derek Lewis is going to have a couple of problems with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate that this is where we're at in the sport, is where we have a prospect who just put on a great performance, one of the best performances of the year. So what do? We give him a fucking layup. We give him the biggest layup that we could see. I mean, Derek Lewis is obviously a formidable opponent against the right type of guy, but name the last wrestler that didn't take this dude down. I don't know, guys. Just
Oh,
crazy to think about.
definitely that, and also, like, with the style that Hokit has, it's not even just getting taken down, it's the fact that he will take him down, get him up against the cage. It'll be one of those situations which Derek Lewis legitimately, specifically was in, where he is on one knee, hand to the side of the face, taking shot after shot to the side of the head,
Yeah,
because
it's
that's what Hokit will do.
it's going to be an easy finish for Hogan, and it's unfortunately going to make him look like some crazy superstar at the UFC White House and get him a lot of publicity. But if he fights like this, if this is the off chance we get against a formidable opponent that's not just going to fall over and give up, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Middle fingers up at the capital of the free world, Chase. Get ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, he probably won't be the only one. I'm sure if he's the first fight of the night, sure, but anybody's going to be rushing to be the first person to say whatever on the White House lawn in their post-fight speech because that's the only opportunity they're going to get. So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we will see about all of that when it happens. Last thing I do just briefly want to address Hydra. I saw your comments about Curtis Blades and his accolades at heavyweight wrestling. All of those, they're not phantom accolades. It's what do they accomplish? That is my point with all of what I'm saying. That you can have all of those accolades and they're all very nice. Where are the submissions? Where is the utilization of that to be an elite fighter? I mean, Curtis Blades has been elite in that division because he is better than most, but being better than most is all that it takes to be elite at heavyweight right now. And Hokit surpassed all of that very easily. And Curtis Blades has had that happen to him several times before.
what I will say also about this fight, lastly, is that Curtis Blades had the commentary crew is like, man, nobody's ever made Curtis Blades look like this. They seemingly forget that he arguably got beaten by Kunaev in his last fight, and he looked exactly like this. He got bloodied up in the first round, and for the next 3 rounds, he arguably didn't win the fight, and then still ended up doing it. So I don't know where Curtis Blades didn't get the nod here, because I, again, once on the second rewatch, I mean, bro, you should not get bonus points for emoting. Like, it's just not how that works. Curtis, he stood the game, and the striking numbers and everything on the stat sheet tells you that he won this fight. And even as close as it was in the moment, I thought Curtis Blades should have won, but they're going to give it to Hogan no matter what at that point.
Unfortunate if that is the case. Yes.
This is another instance where we have a Steven Asplin style striker. I'm just wondering who's going to stand the test of time first, who's going to be the last guy to emote before they get cut out of the UFC.
Well, Hogan will have that shot if he continues the way that he's been going. Yeah, no, I look, we're going to watch the White House card. We will see how all of that goes. We're going to see how Josh Hokett progresses in his career. And I'm, like you said, just make the fights entertaining is all that I can really ask for based on everything else, because God, was it a circus coming into this fight.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, let's move on from that one. We can go straight into the co-main event of the evening here: Azamat Murzakanov versus Paulo Costa. I said, I am no fan of Paulo Costa. I've been a pretty ardent opponent of Paulo Costa for a long time. I think that he is definitely a person who reeks of Dana White privilege, but I will certainly admit he looks good at light heavyweight. He doesn't have to miss weight as much. I mean, the weight misses are not going to be as much of a problem, and obviously he can hang with light heavyweight power. So maybe it's a good fit for the guy.
I I just don't know why the narrative is like, oh, at light heavyweight, he looks stellar. It's like, guys, he looks the exact same that he did at middleweight. He
No,
does.
no, 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 no. No, he was
Go
not.
ahead.
No, because I'm saying, I mean, dude, you take again. I always go back to the Sean Strickland fight as like the touch point for all of that. Like, if he had done the things that he did in this fight against Sean Strickland, it would have been a lot more of a competitive fight. That would have been like, man, maybe Paulo really is about that life. But I mean, like, he was not doing any of the kicking that he was doing here. It felt like, I mean, he really was laying on some nice power kicks in this fight.
Bad example because I'll remind you one more time that one judge gave 4 rounds to Paulo
Yeah,
Costa
well,
in
one
that
judge is
fight.
a fucking moron, though. So I mean,
Eh,
like, what do you?
I,
It doesn't prove anything to me.
But the point is this is the same Paulo that we've seen before, in my opinion. I think this is the exact performance that we've seen from him, just at a different weight against an opponent who's undersized for light heavyweight.
True.
He's fat, he's fluffy, sure, but he's not a towering figure that could, destroy Paulo at range. Paulo is a very rangy striker who sets up feints, and yes, he does obliterate people with his kicks. But guys, I feel like I just knew deep down this Azmat Mirzakhanov dude just wasn't really it. I get Kevin James from Here Comes the Boom vibes from him. I just cannot believe him sometimes. And when what he did against Rakic, I was like, there it is. Boom. Okay, cool. He did something that I did not believe he was gonna do. And against Paulo has this secret hatred for fat people. I don't know if you guys knew this, but he fights different against somebody he doesn't like and calls him fat. But either way, he did nothing different, I thought. I think everything was exactly what he normally does. Asmat just is a person who never, unfortunately, from what it looks like, never seemed to face adversity in his 16 bouts where he had finished 14 of them. It just unfortunately doesn't seem that way because for what I saw, now let me give you the caveat. About halfway through round 2, Paramount just stopped working for me. I'm streaming and I have no issues going on, I'm talking to people online, Paramount just doesn't want to work. I come back, in the third round, right before the finish, and I get to see Mirzakhanov, briefly block a head kick. It didn't land flush. It was just a little brief kick, and then he falls over. And then I honestly have no idea what I'm supposed to believe. I was told that Paulo was chewing him up with that kick at the beginning of the third round. And if it's true, that's fine. If he broke his arm, fine. But did you need to fall over like you're concussed? I mean, I don't know. Like it's not that he fell over like he was like falling out of it. It's like he fell over in the all right, I'm done fighting.
That's what
It-
it was. Yes, he
like
fell over as in I am out of this fight. It's a done deal. I'm cooked.
yeah, it's unfortunate that that's the way it goes because you have somebody who's 16-0, who's a decent level prospect because he just jumped into the co-main event, but then you find out that he's and I hate to say it this way, but a finish like this, it leads you to believe that he's never had to show the true heart and grit that he's really about, because an arm break is one thing. We've seen people who get their arm broken from arm bars and they continue to fight. It's one thing. A concussion, getting knocked unconscious is another thing. But it unfortunately looked like he hurt his arm If that's really what happened, I don't even
Well,
know if the arm was broke, whatever
so
the case
yeah,
may be.
well, let me at least illuminate that a little bit because shout out to CTE. This is another one that he kind of called. He said that apparently Mirzakhanov had his forearm broken before. And I think even multiple times he might have had it. He said that one time was in the Dustin Jacoby fight, and I don't remember which the other one was. But so yes, apparently the forearm had been compromised at some point, and then got re-injured with that kick. So just to put that out there as like, yeah, there is apparently some legitimacy to it.
But, for you to be at this stage in your career, if you have aspirations to be the champion, Jack Della Maddalena had some arms broken and he was able to finish fucking Gilbert Burns, It, for him to just fall over and verbally kind of tap kind of deal, or throw in the towel, whatever you would want to say. I mean, it's just unfortunate for the people who really backed this guy, who really believe like this is the guy who's going to be the champ. He's going to change the division. He really is going to do this, and then you see just what he's made of. Like he really just did. Paulo Costa hasn't had a finish since 2018. Enters a new division, and you're the undefeated prospect that he finishes. It just says a lot about you, man. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will certainly
Hmm.
admit, I was never like super, super high on Mirzakhanov, but I definitely like thought that he had the makings of someone who could beat Paulo, who I saw against Sean Strickland. Now, what I will say to that though is that Paulo, I think, followed my number one rule in this fight. This is another reason why I think that this is a different Paulo than we've seen before. He was first. He came out the gate hot. Azamat was trying to play catch up from the jump of this fight. Like Paulo like set the tone early on in the fight, like what you were talking about earlier. Like he came out with a point to prove here, and he kept that consistency. Also, I think that being at light heavyweight, not having as hard of a weight cut, he was able to keep the pace a little bit better since he didn't have to worry about his cardio as much. Now, you'd think the extra weight would be the problem with that, but truly, with a guy who misses weight so often, there's another one. Joe Rogan in the post fight says, you're a big light heavyweight. It's hard to believe you were making 185. He wasn't. So, but that's my point is that it's like, okay, now he's in a more comfortable weight class here. It's more natural to him. He's able to keep his cardio while also having the power. And on the other side, Mirzakhanov, his biggest flaw, like that's, I think, the bigger point to me was not necessarily that Mirzakhanov looked like he had never faced adversity. It was more that he didn't have very specific fight IQ elements that you think someone in his position would have. His number one biggest flaw to me was that he was not cutting off the cage early to stop Paulo's evasive maneuvers, because the Paulo from Sean Strickland's fight, that was all it was, evasive maneuvers all around the octagon. So, I mean, like, Paulo was able to not only have his evasiveness, but still get the power shots as well. That's a deadly combination if you're not going to be throwing haymakers back, or if you are, not having them being comboed. That was another note for Mirzakhanov. Never put together combos at all. Always single power shots, which always meant that he was basically pulling back the pressure every time that he had Paulo hurt. There were times Paulo was hurt in this fight. I mean, he had him, it wasn't like crazy. He wasn't like knocked out and had to like, claw himself back to life, but like he definitely had him hurt at one point. I remember distinctly Paulo kind of going back into the cage after a shot. You have to keep the pressure on. And if you're going to be doing single power shots, you're basically saying, okay, stop, start, stop, start. I have to set up the next one. I have to set up the next one. It just was not a game plan that lent itself to this type of fight. And that's where the fight IQ aspects were a little bit at play for me. So yeah, this certainly left a lot to be desired about Mirzakhanov. If you want to call it a fraud check, I think that there probably is some legitimacy to that, being an undefeated fighter. I don't know if I'd necessarily go as far, but like, I just talked through the things that were the standouts to me. And Paulo on the other side, a veteran fighter at this point, did everything correct to counteract all of that.
It's unfortunate. You get to the top of the division, somebody enters this division, and he hasn't even won a fight in however long or whatever you want to say. Actually, he just beat Kopylov. That's right, but he hasn't been on the best streak. I mean, Kopylov's another example of a dude. Just Paulo can beat a guy like that, is what it seems to be. Mirzakhanov at 16-0. It is clear that he has just never faced a lot of different variety of people. He probably was running through a lot of his earlier competition, and Rakic, it seemed like a little bit of a hand-picked kind of, I don't know. I mean, Rakic kind of isn't really that tough of a guy, it seems, as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rakic, you can't really say it's handpicked if Rakic was at the highest parts of the division, though. You know what I mean?
You're right there. You're right.
But still, but no, but I agree. I mean, I'm the first person to say that I never thought that Rakic was all that. So I mean, like, it made sense in the moment there too. It's all tracking based on what we're talking about now in hindsight, But like, yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, Mirzakhanov certainly, showed that there are dramatic flaws in the game, and when Paulo comes in fully, fully hydrated, fully, in complete package form, there is a decent fighter in there. That's why I kept harping on the kicks. I mean, Paulo's kicks, he kicks very fast and he kicks very powerfully. Obviously, powerfully enough to break a compromised arm. So, I mean, shout out to him for that. As much of a hater as I am, I have to acknowledge like the legitimacy of him like at this division looking better. So they were questioning whether he was going to stay at light heavyweight. I was like, bro, if you have any sense in your brain, you'll stay at light heavyweight, especially this current light heavyweight crop that we are in.
True, 100%. Yeah. And so I think the last thing that I have to talk about with Paulo is his post-fight interaction with the president of the United States. He jumps over the cage, which should be fine. This is not allowed, by the way. I said this with Michael Chiesa as well. You don't just get to leave the cage, guys. You don't just get to do this. We are not running a circus.
And
But
and
then
SAC is fining you, even well, Florida, whatever. The commission is going to fine you for this.
good, they need to. And so anyway, he jumps over the cage. He goes right to the president, which isn't it crazy that when you watch like an NBA game, there's just like random Secret Service people just like standing there watching to see if like I guess somebody pulls out a fucking gun. I don't know. Like if LeBron James is on the court, they're backing him. The president of the United States is just at face to face with the most lethal killers in hand to hand combat, and imagine if Paulo just like grabbed his hand and just headbutt him. Like there was nobody would have any say about it. But the fact is, he goes over, he shakes the president's hand. The president tells him that he's a very handsome man. He's one of the best looking men that he's ever seen. He's a great fighter. If he wants to come back to this island that his buddy owns, like he can, shit like that.
Yeah, I believe the exact quote was, "You are too handsome to be a fighter."
What does that even mean to another man, brother? Like,
It is certainly an interesting thing to say with your full chest. Yes, it is.
yeah, absolutely. I cannot believe it, brother. Yeah, so the president of the United States pulled out all of his stops on being a little something. Charles Radke was in the back like, "Yo, this is not my president." Like, what the fuck?
Jeff Molina was on Twitter being like, "That's my president." No, I'm just kidding.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, yeah, no, there's certainly odd moment there. It's always a little bit odd when the president is at the events in general. I would say you certainly see a lot of interesting, you learn a lot about certain people that you might not have known before, and maybe you learn a little bit about the president that you didn't know before.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what, I don't know, brother. That guy and his plans, his devious plans with Paulo Costa. Everybody just be aware. I don't know.
I'd rather have those devious plans than what's going on in the other side of the world. But
True.
either way. All right. Yeah. Anything else on this fight?
No, it's unfortunate that Mirzakhanov just I don't know, it's just unfortunate. Shout out Paulo.
Yeah, yeah. And again, even as a Paulo Costa certified, legitimate Paulo Costa hater, I have to admit he won this fight handily. So shout out to him.
There you go.
And yes, 10-7, we are, of course, coming to the main event, and I know how upset this is making you. If you are leaving, all I say is answer your DMs.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, this is the main event of the evening, though, people. This is Yuri Prochazka. This is Carlos Ulberg. This is for the light heavyweight championship of the world. I mean, I don't know if we have to go through the details to know exactly what happened, but we're going to. Chase, what did you think of this fight?
This fight is unfortunate. It's once again just one of the things that happen in this sport. They say this sport unexpected things can happen. The most unpredictable sport is what this is, and that is definitely true. What I would like to say is that this is just a case of destiny. A lot of people, we have our own paths in life, and there's things that you're going to accomplish that you don't know yet. Carlos Ulberg had a lot of faith in himself to be able to accomplish this, but I don't believe that he knew that he was going to have to do it the way that he did. And the fact is that when push came to shove and he was fighting for the biggest opportunity in his life and he knew that he was unable to finish the fight is what it was going to be. I mean, hindsight is 2020, but the fact of the matter, he probably wasn't going to hobble around for the rest of that fight. So he knew what he had to do, and Yuri on the other end, obviously made a mistake. We could talk about what the case may be, what he says, what other people are saying about it. The fact of the matter is, the chips came down and Carlos Ulberg caught a shot on Yuri and dropped him with a hook shot, and that was really the end of it. The fight got stopped perfectly. It wasn't early, it wasn't late. Yuri was clearly going unconscious. It already was by the time it was over. Ulberg was on a bum knee and pulled off almost the impossible, is really what it seemed to be, because nobody gave Ulberg the credit that he was expecting. And even myself, once I saw the injury, I got upset, saying we have a fight ruined from an injury. The fight is not going to be as fun anymore, is because there's an injury on one of the ends and somebody's going to be able to obviously take advantage of that. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and Yuri, I the way that I would see it, and a lot of people, he says mercy. I don't believe that, because bro was kicking him in the fucking leg as soon as he saw him hobbling around. My thing is, I think Yuri, in his mind, eh, the warrior spirit, samurai spirit, he's like, I gotta have an equal fight. We'll stand right here. We won't use legs now. And that's obviously not what he fucking did, but he was going through a lot of emotions, didn't really have his mind set on what he was gonna do. Did he want to win? Did he wanna just have a fight with him? Like, the fact of the matter is, he got clipped and caught, and he's not the champ. And it's just sad, unfortunately. Go ahead.
Well, I know. I think that you set me up perfectly. You talked about the warrior code and all of that. I said if you are in a fight, you win the fight. That is what you do. You don't pragmatize the affair. You don't complexify the situation in your mind with your empathy or your Bushido code or whatever the fuck. Yuri sold this fight. And guys, I hate to tell this to you because I know I've been hearing it in the Discord. I'm hearing it from the conversation in the community. We all love Yuri. We all love the samurai, the nature, the fact that he has a fight style that's very entertaining and he comes back from the jaws of defeat to snatch the victory. All of those things. We like this about Yuri. He's a lovable character in this sport, but that does not give you the leeway to sell the fight the way that he did, and then also to lay any kind of blame on Carlos Ulberg. That's really the narrative that I am trying to counter here today. Carlos Ulberg, on one leg, knocked this man out, knocked out one of the best fighters in the UFC, a man who had never been finished by anyone but one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport. Put some respect on this fucking man's name at this point. Like, it's baffling to me to hear the way that people are portraying this. That this is, oh, Yuri just decided that he was going to lose this fight and did it with this mercy in mind. That's on Yuri. You should be criticizing the fight IQ and not necessarily even the fight IQ, the fight navigation, the knowledge and the determination to win the fight. Now, I'm not even saying, like, if he had that in his mind, that there was some kind of like pullback that he needed to do, then it should have been something that was a momentary, momentary glimpse in his mind, where like almost immediately when it happened, because that's when he was like kind of emoting a little bit, like, oh, stand here, we can fight like this. If he doesn't engage in that way with you, then you go back to plan A, brother. You get back on the A train and go right down the line, which he did not do. So to say that this one-legged man got this fluke victory, this is not a fluke in the sense that it was a crazy shot that landed. It is a fluke in the sense that it should not have been these circumstances, but it was. That's all I'll say if you want to go even fluke territory, which I don't even think it was. I think that this was just a dude who was more determined to actually get the dub than another guy. And that's what you should be taking away from this thing. Ulberg won this fight fair and square on one leg. And like, just a little other part of this narrative. I had Yuri to win and round 2 to start. That was my bet. So I'm sitting there watching all of this, and it's coming to the end of the round, and I'm like, let's just see if he can actually make it towards the end of the round. Get through this round, and we'll see what happens in the second round. Because, like you said, we all kind of knew that this fight was going to be over one way or another. If like at some point, if it was going to be the first round, second round, it could not have made it to the third round. I highly, highly doubt that would have been the case. Then you see the shot land. You see Yuri go out. We had the perfect angle of it too. We saw Yuri go down, saw his head bounce off the canvas. All was in place to be a perfectly fine stop. That being the case as it was, I do not think that you can lay any blame anywhere than solely and squarely on Yuri Prochazka in this case, even if you are a fan.
I agree. I think one thing that I'm adamant on is in what makes this whole situation sticky, and really why I shouldn't even, I don't want to play both sides of it, because yeah, Ulberg was compromised and Yuri was stupid. But that should not take away from Ulberg because he won this fight fair and square. You know, this is even more fair and square than a lot of fights are. You know, this is somebody who is less than 50% and he was able to pull out the dub. You know, Ray Longo, you know, had that dude as hilarious. He had the funniest clip ever. He's talking about the fucking Karate Kid. He's right. I mean, you show no mercy, brother, you know, and whatever. But either way, Carlos Ulberg, I think, is really a lot of the stuff that he's been saying about Yuri post fight. I don't love it, but he did say one thing. He was like, Yuri made the mistake, you know. I know personally I would not have given him the same benefit, you know. If he was hurt out there, I was gonna go get that fucking belt, you know. And I can't say that he's wrong for saying that, you know? Like, I mean, that's the way that you have to be the greatest, you know? Somebody posted a clip. It was like, this is all Yuri had to do. And it's the fucking Gamrot versus Fazeev fight. Fazeev blows his fucking knee out and just falls to the mat. It's like Gamrot just runs around the fucking cage. It's like, that's all he had to do, brother. All you had to do was just kick him in the leg and just run away. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy to
Oh,
think
legit.
that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, think back to Khalil Roundtree versus Jamal Hill. You know, a fight like that where basically Jamal Hill got injured early on and was very stationary, and Khalil just stayed on the outside and picked him apart that way. There's plenty of different paths to victory that you could have done and still maintained your warrior code or whatever. I mean, like like again, I put all of that out of my mind, dude. How deep into your own bullshit are you? Like
yeah.
you're obviously buying your own bullshit a little bit too hard, dude. You're selling yourself out with this samurai stuff. Your job in this fight is to win the fight. That is what you are here to do. You know, if you have this code of ethics, that's all very well and good, and I think it's very respectable that you are you know an honorable man. But you are you are tasked with one thing to do, and it is win. Ulberg is completely right in that quote that you just said.
This goes back to, you know, why, you know, when people they can get away with fouls. You know, we saw Paulo, we didn't even talk about it. He poked Mirzakhanov in the eye, got away with it. If you are not playing to win, I mean, you're just not fucking doing it right. If Yuri's gonna be too fucking nice in there because he doesn't want to leg kick TKO, he deserved to lose, unfortunately. I mean, if you weren't gonna come out here with the intention to beat your opponent until the referee says that you are done, uh, you did not deserve to win the belt that night. I hate to say it, but I don't know if Yuri just is at a point in his life where he's too mature for this game. I don't know. It's just crazy to think.
I mean, that's certainly one way to look at it, being too mature for the game. Mature to a fault, I suppose. You know.
I mean, he's too ethical. I mean, his morals really ruined his way to victory here. Like, you know, even Olberg is a young guy he wanted this so much. He was going to do anything to get this, you know. If it's a compromised opponent, if it's a dude at 100%, it doesn't matter. Yuri on the other hand, he's been there. He wants a fight with a guy, you know. He's not here to just get the belt because that's his lifelong dream. You know, he wanted a fight. And if he wasn't going to get him at 100%, all right, we're going to stand right here and we'll do it. I won't be at 100% either. And there's what you fucking get for it. He played the game and paid the price.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
That's legit. That is super legit what you just said. So, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess to take it on to the next phase of all of this, obviously Olberg is compromised now. I mean, I believe it was Dr. Brian Sutterer, one of the the greats of the space, great YouTuber and doctor, saying that I think he said it was an ACL blow. So,
Yeah.
that's I think he said 9 months to a year out. So this is basically Hamzat part two. Now we have a champion who's not going to be able to defend for a long time. A lot of speculation about what happens to the belt. Do you think that they strip Carlos Ulberg?
No, because they have a big demographic coming from that region. They would love to run him around as champ and get a bunch of publicity for the UFC for the next card that goes to Australia. And he probably will not be headlining it, of course, but they would at least have the idea that, oh, there's a champ in the building that's from our region, our neck of the woods kind of deal. And yeah, they won't strip him normally because we don't strip people for injuries that often. Yuri vacated his belt when he got injured. You know, Jan, I'm pretty sure, also vacated his belt when he got injured. Jamal Hill vacated his belt when he got injured. This is just this division, unfortunately. I mean, but Carlos Ulberg's going to hang on to that belt until he's ready to defend it. And to be fair, I think that is valid. I am not thinking he needs to be stripped. The way he won it, destiny, fairy tale, whatever you want to call it, that man's the fucking champ to me. I mean, let him. He earned his injury and his belt.
that
That's
that
the thing.
that literally two points that I would say. A, that point that you just made, and B, the nature and state of the light heavyweight division does not warrant a stripping, because what are you going to do? You're just, I mean, like we literally were just talking about this in the Discord. Light heavyweight is possibly the shallowest division right now, based on the fact that Alex has left and the shambles that he left the division in, when, in his wake, basically. So what do you do in that regard? I mean, that doesn't make sense to strip this guy after he won it fair and square, and then do what? Have two guys coming off of losses also fighting for it again now? It's just there's not a solid path for a stripped champion and then another setup like what we just had. So I think leaving the belt on Ulberg is perfectly fine. It's more so to me like, what do you even do as far as the next challenger goes? I have said that really what you should do is very much similar to what Khalil Roundtree had, where you had a person jump up from very low in the rankings to challenge because you think that they have that potential. Now, I don't think that this guy is necessarily that, but the one name that stuck out to me, Volkan Oezdemir. That's the one dude that is somewhere in a position that I think could make sense at a lower rank, to actually, come in with I believe he's coming off of a win. It's like everybody else, that this division is so in need of a rejuvenation, that I think it's the only person that would make any semblance of sense until the division works itself through. Which I also had said, this division is very similar to where welterweight was like about a year and a half to 2 years ago, right after the Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal era, coming into the Leon era, leaving the Kamaru Usman era. That was a transitional period. Light heavyweight is in desperate need of that type of transition, and we're just gonna have to see if it actually happens.
Yeah, I don't hate the Volkan Oezdemir pick, but I think it's obviously going to be Gushkov if he beats Jan in their fucking rematch that we're randomly having. Um, Also, if you want to know the sleeper pick, you ready? So if Volkan Oezdemir and Dustin Jacoby get matched up, I think those will be your selection of your low ranked person coming off of a win to throw them into the title fight. So Dustin Jacoby versus Carlos Olberg. You let me know. Has this already happened?
Uh,
Actually, now that I think about it,
yeah,
it
that's a
might
good question.
might have already happened. Go on though.
But either way, no, I mean, but that just the idea that those are the fights that are potentially making title fights in this division should tell you everything that you need to know about the division right now. There is a definite need for new blood. That's why we were saying. I saw you in the Discord say that Paulo Costa, is being talked about for a title shot now, based on that win that he just had at light heavyweight. I mean, that's very, very crazy. But he is a fighter who has had success at a lower weight and is coming up basically riding his own wave, and he's coming off of a victory. So is it that crazy? It is crazy, but is it that crazy? Is all I'll say.
It it is crazy because if you want to think about it, we also have somebody else who's going to emerge into the light heavyweight division. Two new people, actually. His name is Robert Whitaker and then Renier de Ritter. So these people are going to have to fight Paulo Costa. That's the way that I would say it. So
That, or you just fucking you put a goddamn rocket on the back of Ivo Baranchevsky and shoot him to the moon. God damn it.
facts, yeah, definite facts on that one. No,
Yeah.
or Yakiaev, of course, absolutely.
That's we really, I mean, either one of that, but you know what I'm saying, like with a
Yeah.
person of that type. But that's really what this division needs at this point, is really to just start hot shotting a couple of people up. And I'm not even saying hot shotting as if they don't deserve it. I'm saying hot shot them in the sense that you need to just start jumping over people at this point. This has been a merry-go-round with Alex at the top. We've had everybody getting sorted through. There's really no new blood in that range right now, except for Carlos Ulberg. He's now going to be sidelined for a while. This is your window of opportunity to start cycling things through and getting yourself in a position so that when he comes back, he's ready for somebody actually worthwhile.
Yeah, because if you look at the rankings, I mean, I can tell you right now, Asmat Mirzakhanov, for me personally, I mean, if you want to consider him he might stay ranked for a little bit, but lower tier ranked kind of guy is what I would say for after a performance like that.
Sure.
Johnny Walker and Dominic Reyes, they both need to not be ranked after performances like that. And I'm not saying that just from that performance, but these are not these cannot be the best talent that we have on the planet, like right now. Like these guys, not top 15 is what I would say. When you also look at Nikita Krylov, I know he's coming off of a win, but we got to have better options out here, is what I would say. So just looking at it quickly, that's what I would. It's just crazy to think light heavyweight is just really not in the best position.
No, it's super. That rundown that you just did is a perfect exemplification of just how cooked the division is right now. So, yeah, I mean, you need to rejuvenate this thing almost immediately. You've got a decent couple of hot shot prospects or ones that could be hot shotted. Let them have the jump. I mean, you got to do it for the sake of the division. If not, you're going to end up in a situation where this is going to be one of the most shallow divisions for quite some time. And I do see 10-7 saying, Hamzat has been talking about moving up. That could be a shakeup of the division to an extent, but that's only one person, and that's somebody coming from a different weight class. You need actual light heavyweights to make light heavyweight, is what I would say.
Absolutely. And I don't know. This is just unfortunate. Carlos Ulberg, though, once again, I'll say, earned his belt fair and square. Hang on to it for as long as you can, but I would not necessarily be on Ariel Hawani be talking as hot as you've been, because it's just one time that you won the belt off of one singular shot. You're not going to knock everybody out. You're not Alex Bejeda. I mean, that's just the case of the matter. So I'll wait to see you defend the belt. I want to see you defend this belt specifically.
I agree. I agree. And, I mean, look, guys, I maybe we've been a little bit harsh on Yuri, perhaps. I think it's all warranted, but it is tough talk. You're well within your rights to be sad, is what I would
Mm.
say. I mean, Yuri is a fan favorite for a reason. He is a beloved figure in this sport. I think at his core, he is a very kind-hearted and genuinely good person, it seems to me at least. So I think that you are well within your right to be upset with how this all played out. Just recognizing the reality is all that I would say should be in order.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, that being said, that is UFC 327 Prochazka versus Ulberg. Chase Parton, after talking through this card, what'd you think?
It was not as good as I feel like people have been boasting it to be. It was a fun card. It was definitely an entertaining Saturday, but it does just get filed into the list of other entertaining cards that we went through. I don't know if I'll ever forget the ending of it, but that's just the name of the game. Sometimes you have favorite fighters and they don't win them all, and that's the better part. Some of the most entertaining fighters, they don't win them all, and Yuri is always going to be one of those guys. But it's just unfortunate the way that it happened.
Yeah, and I know that the Yuri loss puts a little bit of a damper on the fun of everything. I thought that this was a fine card. I really think that if the level of quality is somewhere around a 7 consistently, that's not bad. But it would be nice to have some 9s and 10s in there every once in a while, which I feel is part of the reason why the watering down of the across the board is how we've gotten to with the UFC. I'm not mad at this card. I thought that there was some fine stuff happening here. There was definitely entertainment to be had. Aside to the main event with a fan favorite getting fell. It, Fine. Again, it really, like, the things that I get hung up on are the things like the Chris Padilla fight. Stuff like that really stands out and bothers the hell out of me as a person who cares a lot about fairness in this sport. But as far as the actual fights go and the fighters themselves, this was a perfectly fine way to spend a Saturday night.
Hell yeah.
All right. That being said, then, well, Chase, before we move on to our predictions, then, do you want to go over our fight picking here? How did we do as far as predictions go?
Yes. So you had gotten out of the 12 fights, I believe is what it is. Let me double check.
Correct.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, you had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correct, with the caveat that you did pick Chris Padilla, but it was overturned to a draw.
Can't
I
count
had
it.
Yep, I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4 correct.
Yikes, we did pretty bad this week. Oh man. All right, well then where are our overall numbers then, Chase?
I am at 92, rounding in on 100 this week potentially if I have a really good week, and you are at 78.
All right. I mean,
Still
hey,
14. It's just 2 good weeks and I think you've caught up.
I mean, this is I'm slowly starting to claw my way back into the picture here. So good deal.
It's a
All right.
long
Well,
year. It's only
it
we're only in the first third of it.
That is very true. Anything can happen going forwards, and we'll see how many really good weeks we can have. And of course, this week is going to be the week that both of us get all of them right, even if we pick differently. So
Yes.
I don't know how that works, but we'll make it work. This is UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Malott. Of course, if we do pick differently on this card, myself and Chase Parton, we are streaming to our individual channels. You pick the channel that you think has the better picks, and you like that stream.
Yeah, absolutely. So for this first fight, Mike Malott versus Gilbert Burns,
Yes,
or well, the last fight, the main event of the card is what I should
right.
say. I would like to believe that Mike Malott is going to go ahead and win this one, but I have done shit on these main events for this year. I really don't even know what's going to happen. Gilbert Burns looked very good against Jack Della Maddalena, won those first two rounds, and then ended up getting finished in the third. Mike Malott probably should take this one. God damn, why would I mean, I'm if he loses, I wouldn't feel that stupid because it's Mike Malott. He normally fucks some shit up somehow. But I'm gonna take Mike Malott and I'm gonna pray to God that he gets this one done.
Yeah, I am in the same boat. Gilbert Burns is always yet another one of these guys that I felt, had a lot of the good qualities and got so close to being in that elite echelon and just never put all of those pieces together to actually make it real. And at 39 years old, I mean, that's also playing a bit of a factor. I didn't realize that Mike Malott was 34. I mean, that's actually not that far apart and not that young in this sport either. So that's an interesting note to all of this. But Mike Malott, the one thing I will say, and the reason that I am also going to be picking Mike Malott is Malott, I think, really a lot of people get hung up on the Neil Magny fight, which I think is entirely warranted. This is one of the craziest reversals of fortune that you could ever see in this sport. It certainly stands out to me as a wild instance of a person who had everything going correctly and just to flip the switch to lose. I really have never seen anything quite like it. That being said, we have seen some pretty solid performances out of Mike Malott after that. I think technically his striking is decent, and really it's going to come down to him being able to stay on the feet. Now, Gilbert Burns, of course, is a very skilled grappler. He's a dude who will take you down and he will try to smother you for a while. He can hang on the feet as well if it's going to stay there. So it's really a matter of if Mike Malott can stuff these takedowns. To me, I'm going to just hang my hat on and pray to the higher heavens that Mike Malott actually is able to do that. So I too will take Mike Malott.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next up, this is a co-main event right here. Kyler Phillips versus Charles Air Jourdain. Now, of course, Charles Jourdain being in it, that makes sense. But Kyler Phillips coming off of a loss, no?
Yes, absolutely. He lost to Rob Font, I believe, is what
There
it
you go.
was. Let me double
So
check on that. No, Rob Font and Vinicius Oliveira. Yes, that is so two losses back to back.
two losses in a co-main event. Man, Canada's getting the cream of the crop.
What I will say about this fight is initially I want to say that I find it annoying that Louis Jourdain is not also on this card, but we'll talk
True.
about that another time. This one
Yes.
is very easy for me. Kyler Phillips is one of these guys who has a good first round, looks like $1 million, does fuck all for the rest of the fight. Ends up just losing unanimously because he doesn't have anything to offer for the next two rounds. It's as if his game is so easy like to figure out that most people round two and three they he's a one trick pony kind of deal.
Yeah, they it's so easy to figure out. They just do.
Yeah, exactly. And Charles Jourdain, now the record may not show, but this is one of the most skilled people in the UFC. And this is also, you have to remember, Charles Jourdain had a whole career already at a different weight. He has dropped down to bantamweight, the same division as his brother, and he's able to, he has a lot better he has a lot better size for this division. Of course, he's a lot bigger of a bantamweight rather than a very average sized featherweight kind of deal. So Charles Jourdain, with every skill in the fucking book, I'm gonna go ahead and take him by finish because he really does. He can do it on the feet. He's one of these guys that when it comes to all the things that you need to be a champ, he has all of them. He's just not gotten the opportunities. I feel like he's just not been. He got knocked out by Jean Silva, who missed weight. Like, just let's keep it out there. Like, that's the only reason that he ended up moving down is because some fucking fat slob. Anyway, Charles Jourdain is one of these guys who will mess you up on the feet. He will just make you consistently think about what is coming next on the feet from him. And then the moment that you think you figured out, he hits you with something crazier, you fall to the mat, and then he'll jump a ghillie and finish you. He's got it all. I really like Charles Jourdain. This is an easy pick for me.
Yeah, honestly, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I recognize that Charles Jourdain has had like elements that have been like things that stick out to me as red flags, I guess you could say at times. But Kyler Phillips is someone that I was very high on for a minute. Like when I saw some of his earlier fights, I was like, "Oh, Kyler Phillips, this might be the guy. This might be one of these dudes that I should keep an eye on." And then time over time, I have seen him prove to me that he is not that guy. And Charles Jourdain, as you said, he's a Swiss Army knife. I mean, this guy really has a very well-rounded skill set that is applicable to all aspects of the fight. I mean, this dude will strike with you if you want. He'll level change when the time is right, and he'll catch you off guard with something that you didn't see coming. That all tracks really well with what I think Kyler Phillips's main strategy is, which is basically good movement on top of solid volume striking. He doesn't keep that pace, and if he does, like you said, it's a solvable puzzle. So I think for those reasons, I too will be taking Charles Jourdain in this fight.
Nice, love it.
All right. Well, next up, I love this. This is my dude, Mandel Nalo, coming off of the Contender Series. I mean, he had one fight where he already won in the organization, but he's making his mark in his home country now versus Jai Herbert, who, I mean, Jai Herbert is just such
He
a
has
crazy.
not. He hasn't performed in the UFC
Oh,
yet.
this is his debut in the UFC.
This
My
is
bad.
his
Okay.
debut. Yeah, I had to double
Oh
check on that.
shoot! I thought, I mean, I must have been confusing him with a different Canadian. Oh, I'm probably confusing him with Louis. No, maybe Louis has not had it. Oh no, he has. He had that weird fight where it was just the dude was trying to wrestle him the whole time. Either way, whatever. Take it back. Mandel Nalo making his debut. I like the guy on the Contender Series. He is a Canadian. He is going up against Jai Herbert, a dude who's just very strange to me. I mean, just Jai Herbert is a guy. This is the dude who head kicked and dropped Ilya Taporia over here.
Hmm.
And he still just never seems to have figured it out. I don't understand Jai Herbert. He is a very complex enigma to me. But whatever the case may be, my dude Mandel Nalo goes out there and he puts on these performances where he puts his entire heart and soul into these things, like he really wants to win. This is another older guy. This is a 36-year-old man. I mean, granted, Jai Herbert 37, but still, Mandel Nalo is like, he's aware that he is an older prospect. He is aware that this is the brief window of time that he has to operate, and he wants to take advantage of that time, doing it in the home country. I like Nalo, and also he looks like Rafi from the league, so gotta love that too. Shout out to Jason Mantzoukas.
Yeah, I will definitely be taking Mandel as well on this one. Jai Herbert again, not he dropped Ilya, but that's the only thing that you can give him to his name is that he did something that nobody else has done yet, kind of deal. And Nalo, again, it's a prospect that we don't know too much about, but he came into a fight, and if you remember back on Contender Series, they would do a little promo from the person who picked their fighter. So you would have Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard or Hunter Campbell, and they talk about their fighter. The dude that Nalo was going against, you would have thought that he was fucking RoboCop from the way that Sean Shelby was talking about him. He thought that this was the greatest fighter that he's ever seen. It was the toughest guy ever. 13 seconds or whatever, Nalo just fucking sleeps him on his face. Like,
Hell yeah.
and Nalo is one of these guys that's unsuspecting. For a 36-year-old prospect, it's going to be interesting how they navigate him. Obviously, giving him a 37-year-old on his debut is pretty clever. But Nalo, his physical attributes are leading me to believe that he's going to be able to perform past a 36-year-old timestamp. He looks fast, he looks powerful, and he's got a 100% finish rate. So, what can you
I
say?
mean, you're speaking the language right here. And also, I think that Nalo, even if it's not the craziest record at 14-3, he does kind of pass the test of what you have said. I mean, you've usually applied it to South Americans, but I think the basic concept still stands. He's not a Contender Series guy who's coming in with 3-1 or whatever, 5-0. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a guy who's like super green. I mean, he's been around enough to have enough of a basis in this sport to be able to navigate savvily, I would think. Jai Herbert's not exactly the most dynamic fighter on the planet. He has his moments, but he's not a guy that I would be like super concerned about pulling some rabbit out of the hat sort of deal. So I just think that Nalo comes in with a lot of attributes that make him the more attractive pick on this one. So for that reason, I will go with it. But I do see it in the chat and have to bring it up. Chase, what do you think of the nickname Rat Garbage?
It is an interesting one. He actually has a couple different nicknames. When he was on Contender Series, they called him the Czar at first, and I didn't get that one, but Rat Garbage is pretty fun. I like that one. So
Yeah, I think the czar. I think maybe speaks more to his heritage, which I don't know what it actually is, so I'm not going to speculate. But yeah, rat garbage is fun. So
mhm,
if you want to be that, he's got a good personality too. He's like kind of one of those guys that you want to root for. Not that that should be why you pick. I'm just saying that in addition to everything, he is a kind of guy that you'd want to have a beer with. He seems pretty fun. So hopefully he can get the job done. We'll see if he can do it against Jai Herbert, who has been around for a while, but is still only 13-6. 13-6, not a great record for being around for a while.
true, 100%. Yeah, so we're
So
taking Nalo.
we're taking Nalo. We have not differed yet. We will see if maybe this is the one here. Jasmine Jasdavicius. She's going up against Karini Silva. What do you think?
This one's easy to me. I mean, Jasmine was having a really good run up until she ran into, I mean, the second best woman in the division, I mean, and she got clipped and she got hurt early. And, rematch could be warranted if she continues to do some good things and we reach back up here and there's still only Manon in front of her. But I don't think Karini Silva is going to be able to do anything like what Manon was able to do. Jasmine's got really good wrestling. Karini Silva, from what I remember, is decent at grappling, but the stand up is just nothing that I care about. So, Jasmine, I would really want her to win, and I'm going to hopefully put stock in her that it was just a slip up and she got caught by a really good competitor. But now we're back to just can crushing. So,
Yeah, I mean, you're nailing every point that I was going to say, basically. I mean, it is very unfortunate that Manon Furo is just that good because Jasmine had been making some really impressive strides. I was really hoping that she was going to be one of the like standouts for Canada. And, going up against one of the best in the division and losing should age well, hopefully. And it's a fight like this that's going to allow that to happen. So I'm hoping that with that all being the understanding, she comes out here, takes Karini Silva out. Another person. I mean, 19-6, not the worst record in the world, of course, but the 6 losses stand out. Considering that she's never been super dynamic herself, this is not a person that you look at Karini Silva and you think, oh, that's title bound. She's just another competitor in the division. She's another person that Jasmine should be able to step over to continue being on the rise into elite status. If she is that person, Jasmine Jasdavicius, I would love that to be the case. Losing this fight would probably change my perception of her, but that remains to be seen. So until that actually happens, I will be keeping my faith in Jasmine Jasdavicius. Hopefully, the Manon Furo loss is just a learning experience for her, and she comes back better because of it.
absolutely. So, both taking Jasmine.
I think so. I think so. I think we have to here, and another Canadian doing it in the home country. I think this. I don't want to say that this is a layup. This is not necessarily a layup. Karini Silva is not a layup. Can this? I don't. I wouldn't go as far as to say that she is a can. But if Jasmine is about her shit, like we thought that she was, this should be a fight that is winnable for her.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Tiago Moises is still in the organization, and he's going up against Mr. Gage Young. What do you
My
think about that?
guy, Gage
Yeah,
Young.
your
I
buddy, even though he's lost a couple of them in the organization.
He has a win. I had to double check. He came off a win against Mahashate in Macau. Last year in China,
Oh,
went to China and beat somebody from the region. So he's got, he's a young guy. He's willing to travel the world. He's got heart. I've told you guys, when it comes to a very basic all around game, Gage Young has that. He can beat somebody who's just not that guy and or never was that guy. Tiago Moises, we've seen him. I've watched replays of him go into great fights with fucking BSD. But then I've also seen him get knocked out by Jared Gordon, who got hit by a car the night before.
was
I'm
that
gonna
fight?
I'm like 90% sure. Let me double check. I'm
No,
pretty
I don't
sure.
think that was because Jared Gordon lost that
Jared
fight.
Gordon, no, he knocked him out. Yep, knocked him out.
He knocked him out in that fight. Oh, I mean, he might have knocked him out, but I don't think that was that fight though.
No, that fight where he got hit by the car, I'm pretty sure that was that fight. But either way, Tiago Moises got knocked out by Jared Gordon. I think Gage Young is going to have a field day. He looked very good in his performance against Mahashate. I thought he proved a lot of the haters wrong. And I still think that he's going to be a decent sized dog in this fight. I'm going to take my guy Gage Young. And I hopefully am going to be the one of only people to bet on him. And I hope that UFC Predictions Tracker is going to be labeling me as the king after this.
Well, good luck to you on that one. Um, the issue that I have is that Mahashate is one of the weaker of the region. So I would say that Gage Young is good, not great, based on the losses that I have seen. I certainly saw that fight with him and Mahashate. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I was watching the Macau card, so I definitely saw it. Um, Either way, I, I I'm kind of leaning on veteran status here. I didn't see Gage Young have like a ton of power in his hands when it came to the other fights that he had lost. Mahashate, like I said, not one of the greatest from that region of the world. He's a dude that I think you should be able to beat if you're in the UFC. Thiago Moises, I think, has more maybe skills in the arsenal than Gage Young does, but Gage Young is a good wrestler, though. So I think that that might be the thing that keeps him on the feet. Tough one for me on this one as far as all of those dynamics go, but I am going to lean on veteran status. I'll take Thiago Moises.
Okay, we will see how that ages for you. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
indeed. And look, if Gage Young can pull it out, prove it. Just prove it to me because again, like I don't take away elite fighter out of a Mahashate victory. He beat Thiago Moises. Still might not be the one that says elite, but at least it'll be one where I'm like, look, I got proven wrong here. Got to give a little bit more respect to the guy.
Absolutely. I love it.
All right. Next up, Dennis Bazukia is going up against Marcio Barbosa. Now, Barbosa is a dude who was supposed to debut earlier, and now he's here. What happened there,
Yes.
Chase?
On Adesanya and Piper, we made a prediction for Marcio Barbosa versus Zhu Kangji. That fight did not happen on that card. I don't know if there was visa issues. That would be my assumption with Zhu Kangji. I would just assume they couldn't make it in. That shit happens apparently the week of. I don't know how that works,
He
but
doesn't have the main line to the president.
exactly. He doesn't have all of his documentation ready to let the Dana White know where he wants to go on this globe. But either way, yeah. So I don't know exactly what to expect out of somebody who had a fight and then it, didn't come through and then now he's got to get ready for a different fight. What are the mental tolls? Like, he was ready to go. He's ready for a fight a couple weeks ago. What are we going to see now? I mean, he is somebody who is 17-2 with 14 knockouts. I mean, he's on a 5-fight or 4-fight knockout streak right now. But that's just outside of the UFC and then Contender Series. So what would you say, Thinker? I will ask you this. I mean, to 1.0
Yeah,
note, South American, one Contender Series fight. He's 17-2. This is a record that you have to pay attention to. Not 6-1, not 5-2, not 7-1. This is a guy right here. Just saying.
yeah, no, and it does track. Bazookia is a dude who is very tough. I do like Dennis Bazookia's fight style. I think that he's kind of gotten a little bit of a bum situation a couple of times with some judging, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say at least because he's 12-6, or excuse me, 12-5, and I don't think that he is necessarily as like poor as that record might indicate to some people. But he's going up against a power striker and he will strike. That speaks to possibly things not going his way to me. I'd be a little bit concerned if he thinks that he's going to be able to get into a firefight in this fight specifically. And Bazookia does have a past of being willing to go into that situation readily and willingly. So I'm just a little concerned that he's going to get caught by something in this fight. Yeah, it's another tough one in that regard because again, more information needed about Barbosa, but knowing that he is a credentialed guy coming off the Contender Series, this might be one that leaning on that might be the way to go. I don't know, man. I'm going to take. Jeez, I'm going to go with Bazookia. I'm going to go with Bazookia. I'm leaning on it.
Okay.
Leaning on the. I got to stick to my guns on the guy coming off the Contender Series kind of thing. But I do acknowledge that if he loses, I'm not going to be super surprised by it.
Good deal. I appreciate that.
Well, so what about you?
Oh no, I'm gonna take Marcio. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna take my South American guy with a lot of experience. I think it's gonna pan out. The people in South America, they seem to be talented enough that beating them is good experience. Is the way that I would say. We talked about Azmat Mirzakhanov. 16-0, or we talk about Bekuev. It's like these guys get regional wins probably because they're just on steroids and beating up lower level competition. But a lot of the times when you look at some of these guys' records, like they've beaten each other, a lot of the times. So like Caio Machado, do you remember that guy?
I
He
do.
beat he beat our boy right here. So our
Oh, Kyle
Barbosa guy.
Machado. Oh, he beat Barbosa. Oh, okay.
You
All
know,
right.
wait a minute. This has to be a different. His name is Kyle Machado, but this is featherweight, so it's clearly not that same guy. And this dude's nickname is Lionheart too, by the way. But that's just irrelevant at this point.
Okay, well, fair enough. But so you're going with Marcio here?
I'm gonna take Marcio, yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I got to stick with it then. I don't know. I'm very torn on this one because it's like again, it's like I can't feel too bad for my picks when I don't have the full data set. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's always what I got to fall back on. So I know enough about Bazookia to know he's a tough enough guy, but I am kind of nervous that he's going to get caught.
It's funny you say that because I hang my hat on this. Is the fact that the one time I got all the picks right, it was the last time that we didn't have a card the week after, so we got to do our in-depth breakdown picks. So I'm like, the next time we have a week off, I'll bring it back, and you guys will see that we just need a few minutes, and we'll cook us up some plays.
True. Yeah. It's if we had an extra day in the week, we could be doing all of this stuff,
I
but
know it.
such is life. But
So
either
everybody,
way,
make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you get us that extra day of the week that we can sit here and do all of our extra stuff. Jeez.
fucking bingo. Yamashow.com for all your last week's fights merch needs, by the way.
Yes.
All right. Next up, a man named Julian LeBlanc is fighting our king, Robert Valentine. Now, is LeBlanc a dude coming off the Contender Series? The name sounds familiar.
You want to know why this name is familiar, and I'll tell you. So this is back, and I don't know if they even still do this because I was tweeting back at them, Marcel, and some other people who post fight, news things. They started using AI pictures of people. I don't know if you
Ah,
saw Regina Tarrant; she had one of them, and the Julian LeBlanc guy had one of them.
aha.
So I know what this dude looks like from a rough AI sketch of him kind of deal, but I don't know anything else about him. I know that he has no wins in the UFC. He has not stepped foot on the Contender Series, and he has two regional losses already. So,
So why is he here? Because he's Canadian?
because he's Canadian, because he is Canadian, brother. That sounds about right. And Robert Valentine needs a free win, maybe.
I mean, Robert Valentine needs a win so badly. It's burning a hole through the ozone layer.
Yeah. So what would you like to say here? I mean, obviously we don't know too much about LeBlanc, but Mr. Valentine we know a little bit about. So I can make it easy for myself. I'm going to take Robert because I have full well faith that he's going to get to the point in his career where him and his neighbor are going to chill by this UFC belt and have a grandiose time.
I mean, it tracks to me whether or not it's actually that specific scenario or not. I know that Robert Valentine has nothing. He's got nothing else in life, man. He is a fighter through and through. He loves this sport. He lives this sport. He coaches this sport. When people are stepping out, he's the one that steps in.
Yep.
Robert Valentine needs this win. It's like we were saying. I mean, jokes aside, this guy, he really wants to be here. You saw the heart that he had on the Contender Series. He's gone through a rough stint of it in the organization. He needs a win badly. We don't know anything about LeBlanc aside from he was an AI picture that Chase saw one time. I got to go with my guy, Robert Valentine.
Absolutely. And funny fact, I don't know if anybody ever knew this before. I just found this out for the first time. Robert Valentine has a loss to Ebo Aslan back in the regionals. That was his fifth fight in pro bouts. I just feel bad for him because he got knocked out by him as well. God damn, Robert.
Robert Valentine has been through the ringer already, and he is still early on in his career in this sport.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I gotta hope. I really gotta hope because if Robert Valentine loses this fight, then it really is over. And I hate to say that because I do like the guy a lot, but gotta win your fights.
I agree.
All right. Well,
This
both of
next
us.
one, dude.
Yeah, a lot of both with candles up for Robert Valentine, hoping that happens. But this next fight, oh yes, Tanner Bozer, Bulldozer Bozer is back. Good lord, they got rid of this guy fucking after the Robellis loss, did they not? He's going up against Gokhan Sarakam, by the way.
Yeah, no, this fight, what could you even say? I don't know anything about either of them. I'm trying to look at our guy here. He faced Alexei Kamur, a Bosnian guy. That's the last guy that our Tanner Bozer guy fought back in 2023.
Oh, did
But
he not? He didn't fight Robellis?
no,
Who was the dude that lost to Robellis then? Oh, anyway, whatever. I thought that
some
was the guy that.
jobber.
Yeah, well, no,
Jobber.
I thought it was him, but I guess I am mistaken with that. Either way, yeah, Tanner Boser, big heavyweight dude, but certainly one of the lesser heavyweights. He's 22-10 over here, going up against a dude that they found in the mountains of Turkey.
He's from
Um,
Bellator. Calm down.
Sarkam is.
Yep.
I mean, at 9-2, is he? Was he crushing skulls over there?
He hasn't fought since 2023.
Oh man! All right, well, flip a coin, Chase. What do you want?
I'm taking the Turkish guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think they're giving him an opponent with the potential that he just walks in and flatlines him in the first round to bring back the hype of heavyweight that we need first round killers. But unfortunately, he's 9-2. He only has 5 KOs as a fucking heavyweight in Bellator regional BS shit. So I'm not sold on it, but I'm gonna take Gokhan.
All right, I like it. Well, being that it is, too much of an unknown situation here, I will go with Tanner Boser then, just to,
Nice.
a Canadian at home, hometown advantage perhaps, doing it in front of the home crowd, maybe going out there with a little bit of a point to prove, maybe trying to make a little bit more of a name for himself, saying, hey, I am around here at heavyweight. I've been around at heavyweight for quite some time. No one ever thinks about me at all. Maybe this is the time for people to start recognizing that Tanner Boser is still in the UFC.
True.
All right. Moving on down. This is a better one here. This is an easier one to pick. This is Melissa Croden versus Daria Zlesniakova. What do you think about this one?
You're saying it's an easier one to pick, but I mean, you do have to remember that Melissa, as much as I am a fan, and as much as I do believe that she should win this fight, she did not look her best against Luana Santos. I believe there
True.
was a knee injury in that fight, but I could be wrong. The last thing that I will say is Daria Zlesniakova is the third generation down of the Shevchenko clone, and she never really was that good to me, never appeared to be very talented. And I took her to lose against Melissa Mullins, who had already lost to Daria in regionals before. And Daria, once again in the UFC, butchered Melissa Mullins, beat
That is
her
true.
to hell.
Yeah.
So I don't want to count her out as being someone who's not as skilled as I believe, because I think I just haven't had the opportunities to see her skills, but I'm going to go with Melissa Croden. I do truly believe that I know what I'm seeing sometimes. I see a good fighter, and I can tell when a good fighter is emerged. And I think Melissa Croden, coming off a loss, the record's not as good as Daria. I think she might be counted out here. I want to take Melissa.
Yeah, I this that certainly reframes things a little bit because you are right. Daria Zalesniakova put a hurting on Melissa Mullins in that fight. If you recall, she really messed her up pretty bad, which was somewhat surprising because I don't know if we had seen Daria Zalesniakova put on that violence of a performance. Now, I mean,
Right.
it's a lot of times with the women, it's a lot of technical grappling, a lot of wrestling and things like that. But when you have a woman who actually goes out there with the intent to injure, that is something that speaks pretty loudly to me. Melissa Croden is tough. She was cut pretty bad, I think, in one of those early fights. She might have been the fight that she had to flip the switch and came back to win it. Either way, definitely a tough competitor. Probably a little bit correct there. Luana Santos able to control her very easily on the ground. For that reason, I think that is why I'm going to go with Daria, because I think not only does Daria have the ability to land some heavy shots on her, but she also can control on the ground. And if that is where Croden is weak, then she has more advantages than Croden does coming into this fight.
Wow. Okay, I did not think you were going with Daria on that one, but I will love it. All right.
Absolutely. I'm good. Yeah, no, I like Melissa Croden a lot. I think that she's got a lot to offer, and I hope that she is able to, prove me wrong. Look, go make a believer. That's always what you got to do. But I saw Luana Santos lay on top of her for 3 rounds. That never looks good.
100%. Yeah, it's unfortunate that that happened.
Absolutely. Shout out to Sanjay listening in on his drive home. Appreciate you, brother.
Be safe, brother.
Absolutely. All right. Next up is Mitch Raposo versus Alan Nascimento. What I will say about this one coming into it is that Mitch Raposo certainly turned a corner in his performances, because Mitch Raposo was always a dude who I was like, why is this guy here? There were a couple of times where I was like, this dude does not seem like he is of the caliber that should be in this organization. And then in his last performance, he was really a machine. I mean, like, cardio was certainly there and the output was there as well. Alan Nascimento on the other side, this is a pretty credentialed guy, 22-6. I mean, he's been around the block. So that being said, Chase, what are your thoughts?
This one is an interesting one because I do remember Mitch Raposo putting on a performance that we should put more respect on. Alan Nascimento is another one of these Brazilian guys who's got a very credentialed record, not necessarily doing the glitz and glam that he should be, but he's one of these people that's just not really meant for that. He's a very standard person, very basic, when it comes to personality, when it comes to fight style. He has the skills, but he uses them very technically, and he's very sheltered as a fighter. I want to take Nascimento because I think maybe it's starting to come together. He dropped Cody Durden in his last fight, and I laughed at Cody Durden for that. You have a guy with one TKO on his record, and you get dropped by him and then submitted or whatever. Maybe Alan Nascimento is finally coming around where he can put the pieces together and find those shots. I'm going to take the veteran here, and I like this one.
I like it too. I like the thought process because really what this was signaled to me then based on that assessment is maybe both of these guys are turning a corner. You know what I mean? And that makes it good matchmaking. So this could be a pretty competitive fight, all things considered. It is early on the card. Maybe this is one of those ones that they're thinking is going to prop the card up early. I mean, I'm going to side with Mitch Raposo. I want to believe that he is also, that he is fixing the things that I thought were the standout glaring issues and making them into the strengths now. So, I mean, Nascimento is going to be a big test for him to prove if that actually is the case. This is another one that if he loses, I'm not going to be super surprised by it based on my previous assessment. But what I saw in the last fight was a tenacious fighter who's actually going to bring a fight to his opponent. And he also can hold his own when it comes to wrestling. So, it's like, will he be able to stuff all the takedowns? That's going to be the big question. Nascimento gets him down. That could be a bit of a problem. But aside from that, barring that as the as something that could happen, I want to believe that Mitch Raposo is trying to make believers out of us, and I'm gonna go with Mitch Raposo on this one.
All right, I got it down. We're split on another one.
Certainly are, but this one I do not think we are going to be. This is JJ Aldridge versus Jamie Lynn Horth. Now, we all know striker Jamie Lynn over here been putting hands on these ladies.
Yeah, JJ Aldrich surprisingly has only been finished one time in her career. So I'm not going to believe that she's going to go out here and just get smoked. She's a lot tougher than I feel like I'm going to give her credit for. She got finished by Macy Barber. I mean, that's 2019. But the thing that I will say is that I think that Jamie Lynn Horth is one of the better strikers that we have in the women's division right now. And she may not, have the record that you would believe it, and she hasn't had the opportunity to, but she's in Canada and they gave her an opponent who's not necessarily that good. She's gonna win. She's gonna win by probably knockout again. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I mean, like either JJ gets knocked out or she just gets brutalized for 3 rounds because, I mean, Jamie Lynn Horth, she has been proving time and again that she has the hands. She's also very tall, so taking her down is going to be difficult. She comes in with a set of credentials, characteristics. That's the right word. Set of characteristics that makes her a very formidable opponent to a much smaller JJ Aldrich. She's crafty, yes, but she is not, like a technical phenom. And if Jamie Lynn is able to stuff the takedowns, which with her size, I believe she is going to be able to do. I think that this is going to be a very long and very agonizing fight for JJ if she does not go out. So I predict this is going to be a pretty one-sided affair, and I think that Jamie Lynn Horth is going to walk away with this one very handily.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. Moving on down the line, John Castaneda. He is fighting our dude, the machine, Mark Vologdin, Mr. Contender Series himself. Finally, we're getting Vologdin in the organization proper.
Yeah, I will not ever count this dude out. He's one of the toughest dudes ever. John Castaneda just lost to fucking Chris Gutierrez by split decision. Not the best look. I'm gonna take Mark Vologdin, and I'm not gonna think too much about it. I mean, this one is an easy one because he's gonna put on a fight that I really want to see again. John Castaneda will put on a fight that I probably will say, please get out the UFC after.
And I mean, look, they do the matchmaking for a reason. Castaneda is 21-8, going up against the dude who had a potential fight of the year on the Contender Series, and don't you forget that. I mean, like a guy putting that much heart and effort into a Contender Series fight. Just imagine what he's going to do in the organization. Castaneda is a good, not great fighter. Vologdin is coming in here, coming off of the loss in that fight, by the way. So I mean, this is the guy who is, he's still got a point to prove based on a fight of the year contender that he was a very big half of. This is not one of those ones where it was like a one-sided beating. This was a two-way war, and somebody just had to be the winner of it. So yeah, I mean, all of the circumstances are very correct for Mark Vologdin to get a nice standout victory here. Show everybody who is not aware of the Contender Series why this guy is such a highly touted prospect.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. You listen, Vologdin is not just a good fighter, but he's an exciting fighter, and I'm just really excited to see what he's going to be able to do.
Very much the same. I mean, there are we talk about some of the guys where it's like, oh, you don't know what you're getting when it's coming off of the Contender Series. This is not that, and that's why it's exciting.
100%.
All right, and then to start the whole thing off here, Jamie Siraj is fighting John Yanis. This is a fight that exists, Chase.
This is a fight that exists. I'm gonna just give it a quick coin toss, but I want to just go ahead and give you a little information. So
please do.
Three fights ago, our Siraj guy, he lost to a man named Diego Brandao, who's from Jackson Wink MMA.
Oh, Diego Brandao, yeah.
Yeah, so his most recent win is against Kai Kamaka III on Tough Enough. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't really mean anything, obviously, but I just find it interesting. There's always just a little onion layer of all these fighters and who they fought and who they've lost to. But that dude's record, by the way, and this is just a test to the experience that Jamie Siraj has gone against. I mean, listen, the person that he just beat to get into the UFC was 0-2 on his career, so that doesn't really mean anything. This person that he fought, the Diego Brandao, is that what you said?
Yes.
He's 31-22. This dude's crazy. This dude's a madman when it comes to pro mixed martial arts.
But, yeah, that's how I knew him. I mean, he's been around for a long time.
So I would just hope that our Siraj dude potentially got some good experience against fighting a guy like that. But as I just said, the person that he most recently fought to get into the organization is somebody who, I'm sorry, he's 1-6. So
1-6 in what?
Pro mixed martial arts.
Oh, well, wait. How could he be 1-6? He's 14-3 on the record.
No, the person he just beat to get this opportunity. He beat a guy who is 1-6 in his career.
Understood. Okay, now I get you. Okay, well, what about Mr. John Yanis over here?
He is from the Contender Series, and I actually am a big fan of him, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, let me just go pull him up real quick. I remember his name.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember the name. I'm struggling to remember the fight.
He got subbed by him. Oh, but that was actually a really good fight. This is the dude that was in prison, I believe. He had like some troubled past.
Yes. Okay. I mean, did get subbed by Austin Bashi, though. So,
I remember him actually being a decent fighter up until it got to the ground and he had like nothing to offer. But I'm going to take John Yanis for sure.
Okay. Well, you know what? Just because it is a guy coming off the Contender Series, coming off of a loss on the Contender Series, a guy who's 9-4 coming into the organization, I'll go with Jamie Siraj because it really is a coin flip to me. So, I mean, I think that you're probably going to be correct. Like based on the toughness that he showed in the Bashi fight, it probably will track for Yanis, but hometown advantage for Siraj, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'm okay with that. Be a little bit different. Hope for the best on this one.
First fight of the night, though. It should be pretty good. I'm expecting good because John Yanis, I mean, he was an entertaining fighter from what I saw in that one round or two that he had with Austin Bashi. So
actually, I'm taking Giannis as well. I'm sorry. That's
You're going to take Giannis?
Lock it in. I'm taking Giannis too. Yeah, I have to, because you know what? I think that really what it is that Giannis is going to come out here and set the tone of a problem for Canada, and then Canada's going to get the redemption later on in the card.
Okay, I have switched it officially, chat. You saw it. We have switched it to John Yanis. The doors have been shut. There are no more picks to be changed.
Exactly. That is locked in at this point, and that's the only time if we're still talking about it, you can change up until we are done talking about it. We're done talking about it now, and we will find out what happens this Saturday when we are on our watch-alongs of this very event, which you can come by and hang out with us for. You can find me at youtube.com/@YamaShow, and Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
You will find me streaming every Saturday the UFC is on at youtube.com/@CP Smalls, of course.
Absolutely. I am on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Yama Show on all of those platforms. Please follow your boy over there as well, yamashow.com, for all of your merchandise needs, including last week's fights merchandise. Go get yourself a shirt, go get yourself a mug, support the channel, support what we're doing over here. If you enjoy what we are doing, make sure that you are liking and commenting on all of this stuff as well. Thank you guys very much for the support on Bloodsport and Beast. We're getting ready for more stuff around the corner, always on the channel. So keep tuning in. We appreciate you very much. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.